form of one tree. It's even mentioned in the Doomsday Book.
As they jump the second.
No es otro que la llegada de la 155 edición del Grand National de Aintree.
The Grand National is televised all over the world, this year in 56 countries, from Brazil to Bahrain. Ironically, it's more popular than ever since the fiasco of 1993.
Jsou v podstatě v cílové rovině a bude se rozhodovat o vítězi regulérního nebo neregulérního rostihu. No, uvidíme na závěr. Ešanes je stále v čele rostihu, na druhém místě tvrdě bojují Romeniky.
The 1952 National had a rather different sound to it. The owner of the course, Mirabelle Topham, banned BBC Radio and installed her own team, leading the commentary herself.
But it's still heel leading from freebooter. As they skim the top of that third fence, it's still Teal. And I now hand you over to Jack Topham at the Valentine.
Perhaps unsurprisingly, the BBC were reinstalled a year later.
Coming to the next.
The first National at Aintree was won by the favourite Lottery, ridden by Jem Mason. Mason was the most famous jockey of his time, but Lottery disliked him, so Mason would conceal his racing colours under a coat before mounting Lottery.
As they go to number 5.
The fanfare for the common man is played every year on the walk to the winner's enclosure, which someone somewhere has calculated takes exactly 14 seconds.
And the leader's now running down to Beecher's Brook. Captain Beecher, who often had a beard, christened the famous brook in 1839. His mount Conrad smashed into the fence, propelling the unfortunate captain over the drop. To save himself, he dived into the brook. A hero of the Peninsular War, the captain later met with hard times and was buried in an unmarked grave in Kilburn in North London. The lead is all over Beecher's.
Jockeys are rarely lost for words, and they often have a quick chat as they ride round.
Isn't he fast? I was telling him how fast you were. Oh, he's just a blur. Oh, shut up! Oh, right. You've got to be quiet during the race.
Oh, right.
It's quite common to have a chat with the boys beside you if you're sort of middle to out the back and you know you've got no chance. I always remember one day I was going down to Beecher's Brook the second time, and I had John Joe O'Neill beside me, and I was telling John Joe this joke, and I was just about to deliver the punchline as we jumped Beecher's. And slap, I got slammed into the deck, and I picked myself up. Through the haze, I see John Joe trotting back on his horse. And he only came back to listen to the punchline. He said, what the hell did the gorilla say to the monkey?
The back marker's jumping it.
The conditions here in Moscow are all against the Russian trio Epigraph II, Griffel and Relief. But in spite of a hard winter, their preparations for Aintree are almost complete.
It was in 1961 that the Russian horses made the 2,000-mile journey to Aintree. The invitation was made by Mirabelle Topham 5 years earlier, when Mr. Malenkoff and Mr. Gromyko were her personal guests.
Beecher's Brook comes in for a lot of attention, and leading Soviet jockey Prakov makes a complete inspection.
Griffel, ridden by Vladimir Prokop, fell at Beecher's but was remounted. Roger, ridden by Ponomarenko, fell at Valentine's. The horses at 100 to 1 in truth had no chance, but as a goodwill mission, it was a winner.
As they go down to Valentine's.
The second brook on the national course was christened Valentine's in 1840 after a horse called Valentine corkscrewed his way over the fence. The name has spread into other sports, and the local football team is called the Valentine Colts.
And coming to the 10th.
The cars are already on the starting grid, and what a great lineup it is with stars like Sterling Moss, Jack Brabham and the all-conquering Ferrari team.
To the unabashed horror of the jockey clubs, Mrs. Topham launched Grand Prix motor racing at Aintree in 1954. Sterling Moss and Graham Hill were regular competitors.
Now coming into an extremely difficult hazard of the entry circuit, the Melling Crossing, which is a 90-mile-an-hour left and right flick, followed by a very deceptive right-hander, which Phil Hill is taking now, and then the short dash into Tats, savage braking right down to less than 40 miles an hour, and round they come, and
It's said that Mrs. Topham withdrew from the Grand Prix circuit when the events were switched to a Sunday, having promised the local residents that Sundays would remain noise-free.
And they're up to the checkered flag and victory in the RAC Grand Prix of 1961.
And they all jumped that one well.
Nowadays, this man takes care of all the national jockeys, making sure they have the right kit. But John Buckingham is more famous as the rider of Foinaven, who in 1967 was the only survivor of a pile-up at the 23rd fence.
And so is Castlefall, Drogheda has fallen, Principal has fallen, Norther has fallen, Curtin Lad has fallen, the Fossa has fallen, there's a right pile-up, Beasley has climbed over the fence and left his jockey there, and now with all this mayhem, Foinaven has gone off on his own.
Just couldn't believe my eyes. The horses whipping round, turning around, galloping back towards me, jockeys running round, horses upside down in the fence. The fence was absolutely flattened, and I jumped the fence where it was whole. Got to give the horse a lot of credit, really, because after what he's just galloped through, and he jumped it more or less like a show jumper, you know.
And racing now across the Melling Road for the second time.
Aintree has a new sporting activity. Recently, a 9-hole golf course was launched in the middle of the old motor racing circuit. It has unique hazards, including a mock Beecher's Brook. It's long and it's hard, but sometimes the putts go in.
As they come down towards the next.
One horse has run a record 8 times in the race, and if he was still going today, he'd have the support of Major, Blair and Ashdown. Manifesto was the winner in 1897.
And this is the daunting chair that they're approaching now. Grettar strides into the final furlong and is already being acclaimed as the national hero of 1982. Frank Gilman's Grettar strides up to the line to win it in fantastic style. Ears pricked, he's a fresh horse. Grettar wins the national.
Now Grettar's the oldest surviving national winner. At the age of 24, he remains in sparkling form, a revered citizen of Leicestershire.
And they've got 5 to jump.
Only 2 greys have ever won the race, the Lamb twice in the 19th century, and Nicholas Silver was the last in 1961.
Ahead of Merriman by 5 lengths, Nicholas Silver wins the national.
Sunny Bay and Dexter Dove will be trying to turn the grey tide today.
What a combination, Bobby Beasley and Nicholas Silver, first grey to win the national for 90 years.
Coming down to the water.
Not everyone likes the water jump in racing. In 1839, this was the obstacle in front of the stands, a stone wall. It was removed after Lottery demolished it in 1840 and banned finally in 1844.
But as they come down now to the second last fence in the national.
Over the years, the National has attracted its fair share of limelight grabbers. Irishman Dan Gunnery, a familiar face in the late 60s, somehow working his way into the winner's enclosure.
And what do you say to all these people like Ryan Price and Freddie Winter?
Oh, I said, congratulations, a lovely race, thank you very much. He thought I was something to do with the owner thought I was with the trainer thought I was somebody else, and he said, well, they got fed up, he said, oh, saw him, we won the National, and they got fed up asking who I was.
The 90s imposter appears before the off.
I used to walk out behind the jockey who I thought would win the race. But I was worse than the Curse of Hello magazine, because every time I walked out behind a well-known jockey or a horse or a jockey with a leading fancy, he was gone by Beecher's first time around.
As they come to the 18th.
Now, what's the connection between a microbrewery in North Yorkshire and the Grand National? Answer, double chance. The horse won the race in 1925, trained by Fred Archer, a nephew of the racing legend. He was trained in Malton, and now the beer of the same name is brewed in the stable block where Double Chance was trained.
We pulled the first pint in February '85. We had to think of a name for our first beer that came out, and it came straight away to us that at one time there'd been a Grand National winner in these stables called Double Chance, and we decided to call the beer Double Chance after him.
Double Chance, the horse, had a terrific finishing kick. As for the beer, well, don't mind if I do.
Cheers.
There are plenty standing as they come to the 19th.
For nearly 20 years, the Grand National Trophy has been guarded by the Army, who changed the guard every half an hour. Their worst moment was the Void race in 1993. No winner and angry spectators keen to take home a rather special souvenir.
They're coming down now towards the final fence.
And do you know that you can get married at Aintree? 7 weddings are booked for this year. What about a photo by beaches? Or for added romance next to Valentine's? Or in the shadow of the red rum statue?
I love you.
Very nice. Claire Balding and Julian Wilson with those stories. We have many more tales to tell you here on Grand National Day today, and we'll also be meeting a famous Hollywood star who had 2 runners in the National some years ago, and that person will be telling us all about it and reminding himself, I would imagine, too. I won't tell you who it is at the moment. If you've got the record books at home, you might be able to work it out for yourselves. But as well as the Grand National, of course, we've got 3 other excellent races for you coming up here today. The 145 is the first, the Cordon Bleu Handicap Hurdle. The Martel Red Rum Chase at 2:20, and then the Martel Aintree Hurdle at 2:55. So it's a big, important day for those men who have to ride the horses. That's the jockey's room. That's the picture in there at the moment. And many of them not only have rides on the National, on the big race, but will ride in 2 or 3 races before that as well. So it's a daunting day. Arsenal now leading 3-0 at Chelsea, which could put them into 2nd place. We'll be back very shortly.
In the last century, not the in the last century, not the latest.
Today we're looking forward to
Jenny Pitman. For the inside information, well, we reckon the people in the know hang out at the local bookmakers. And here at Ladbrokes in Lambourne, I've been joined by the local manager. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon.
Brisk trade since I've been in here for the last hour. You're taking lots of money?
We've been very busy. There's strong support for all the local runners, in particular Sunny Bay and Smith's Band.
Are those wise bets, do you think?
I think they'll be there or thereabouts at the finish, so I wouldn't knock anybody having a bet on those.
What's the biggest bet you've taken?
We haven't taken anything incredibly large here. Probably £100 would be the biggest bet.
And are you actually allowed, if somebody wanders in at 3:30 and says, right, £25,000 on X, are you allowed to take that sort of money?
If he's got the money, we shouldn't have any problems accommodating him.
All right, let's just have a word with 1 or 2 of the ladies that are taking the money. Good afternoon to Sarah.
Hello.
Where's the smart money gone on then?
Local horses.
All
Smith's
local
Band,
horses?
Yes, Smith's Band, Northern Lad, Mercer Oats.
And I know you like a bit of a bet yourself as well, don't you?
Only on Grand National, isn't it?
Yeah. Who have you gone for?
Northern Hyde.
Northern Hyde. What sort of price?
40 to 1.
And the horses that are currently sort of, 100 to 1 and 150 to 1, is that a complete waste of money, do you think?
No, it's a bit of fun, and no, I like them big book prices like that.
Why not? Let's just have a word with this gentleman over here. I'll get our cameraman to come over. Stood here with his dog look.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Right, who have you gone for?
I've gone for Killishin, ridden by a local lad that's from here, Sean Curran.
Do you know Sean at all?
Yeah, I know him fairly well, yeah.
And what would he say his chances were?
I think he would like softer ground, but he's just got a chance,
You got a reasonable price?
33 to 1 will do me, yeah, I'm quite happy with that.
A little each way bet for you?
A little each way bet, that's all.
OK, thank you very much indeed. So a great atmosphere down here in Lambourne. People continue to come in and place their bets. That's the situation here at the moment. We're going to move to the local pub. There's a few stable lads and a few sort of trainers and jockeys, and we'll talk to you a bit later on. Back to Des Lynham.
Thank you, Gary. You forgot to ask the dog. Might have been just as wise as anybody else. Richard Dunwoody, of course, has won the race twice. You're on Smith's Band. They were mentioning it there. Do you know the horse at all much? Or?
I sat on him for the first time this morning, Des. Jenny made sure we were out of bed early, and we rode out at 7 o'clock this morning. And he felt in great form. He's bouncy. He's not over big, but I'm looking forward to him.
You got a chance on him, do you think? He hasn't run much, has he?
He's only had the one run was pulled up this year. Roddy felt that he changed his legs and felt he'd gone lame. Wisely pulled him up. But Jenny's been delighted with his preparation, so we're hoping for the best.
You're so experienced in this race. I mean, you've had a great record in it. How do you feel on the day of it now? Much the same as you always have done? Do you still get tense?
It's much the same, yeah, and come sort of 20 past 3 or whatever, it'll certainly the butterflies will start going again. No, the occasion doesn't get any less.
Yeah, apart from yours, any fancy particularly for anything?
Like the Irish horses,
Wild Hide.
Antonin and Wild Hide. Certainly if the ground had been a little bit softer, I walked around, this wind is drying it up all the time. It'll ride quite quick.
Right. Now, you're switching sports a little bit on a part-time basis, one understands. We've got some pictures of you doing a bit of motor racing. Tell us about this, what's going on?
Yes, just something that we ended up doing during during the winter. I went down to Peter Gethin's driving school down at Goodwood, and I've ended up driving a Formula First. I hope to compete in sort of 7 or 8 of these races during the season. I had my first race the other day at Mallory. Really enjoyed it. It was I've had a big buzz from the national, but this certainly gave me a great thrill the other day.
Is this a bit of a future for you, do you think, when you stop riding, when the weight goes on?
I'll have to quicken up a bit. Anyway, it's a little way off the pace. We finished mid-div in the end. It was tremendous fun.
What sort of engine capacity have they got? Are they very powerful cars, or?
They're not the most powerful, but we were getting an average speed around an oval of just under 100, and top speed of around 125. But it was quite competitive racing the other day. We were getting close once or twice.
Do you get a bit of stick because people know who you are? They try to beat you especially?
I didn't manage to get into too much trouble the other day. The thing was to get around safely. We managed that just about. And certainly if we get up with the front runners, I think there will be plenty of competition up there.
Yeah. We've got some other pictures here which we spotted about you on the television the other day, and the other jockeys, I don't know, they might be interested in this in particular, I don't know.
I should think they might be. I think they want the shirt.
Please welcome back Richard Dunwoody.
Now, what's this all about?
I don't know, Desmond. What is it about? That shirt is out the 70s, isn't it?
It is special. Yeah, it is different. Yeah. But a collector's item, I would have thought, Richard. But you're doing a bit of modelling. You look as though you're pretty good at it, to me.
That's why they were my instructions. So the best bit's when Willie came out here now.
Yeah.
It's the first time I've ever known him speechless. He had a look in the mirror. We're supposed not to look down and see what we're wearing.
Yeah.
He saw himself in the mirror and he just couldn't speak.
So they enjoyed that. So you'll go off and take a bit of stick from them now, I expect.
Yeah, I'll get plenty of stick for that anyway. I was getting plenty of stick going around the parade ring the other day. I think people were trying to get that shirt off me.
All right. Now, you've got, you ride in the 2 other rides, haven't you, as well?
Yes, ride Celibate and also Pridwell in the hurdle. So Celibate's got a good chance.
So it's a busy afternoon for you this afternoon. I hope it goes well and safe for you. And Smith's Band, we hope you have a great ride on it.
Thanks very much.
Richard, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
That's Richard Dunwoody, of course. Twice a winner here on the Grand National. Well, of course, it's the 50th running, as we keep telling you, of this great race, and the 50th commentary for Peter O'Sullivan. And Jim McGrath's been looking through the Peter O'Sullivan Grand National scrapbook.
You act as, I feel, as a lens, a camera lens, really, and the action passes through this lens, and your job is to print each frame.
It's Minnie Homer now from Just So. Minnie Homer was Just So, putting in a tremendous challenge towards the near side. Minnie Homer and Just So as they race towards the line. Minnie Homer is going to win the national from Just So. Minnie Homer is winning Just So.
Let's see what we've got here. That'll bring back happy memories, the old
Merriman, yes.
Jim Bailey, yeah. Good bookmaker, always get on?
Yeah, good man he was, yeah, it was a good man. It was the first TV broadcast, so of course it was worrying, you know, there were lots of cameras there, but behind the scenes, I mean, things kept going wrong, and, you know, one was in a bit of a panic about it all. But anyway, Merriman won. I'd tipped him in the Express, for which I wrote for 35 years, and I'd won a grand, which was no small amount in those days. And
what would they be like now, a grand in 1960?
Well, I don't know. I've never worked that sort of thing out, quite honestly, Jim. But it was most acceptable, I can tell you. But I mean, the greatest joy really was calling him home and calling the victorious partnership down, flanked by the two police horses in the traditional manner, you know, to the winner's circle. So totally overjoyed. It was that was lovely. It was very special. Not, I suppose, as special emotionally as calling Red Rum in 1977 when he won his third national, when he raced into the history books.
And he's coming up to the line to win it like a fresh horse in great style. His hats off and a tremendous reception. You've never heard one like it at Liverpool. Red Rum wins the national.
I've always found it difficult not to talk quite rapidly, certainly towards the end of the race, because, as you know, things happen fast, and to keep pace with it, it's not easy. I think in the early days I was said to become rather incoherent, but it always used to be a matter of competition between the sound effects engineer and the commentator. He wanted to assert his presence by bringing up the roars of the crowd, and you obviously wanted to translate what you thought was the correct action into words, racing to the line. So you were both competing with each other, as it were.
I'll give you a test here. Davy Ladd's colours.
Who?
Davy Ladd.
Davy Ladd. I'll tell you what, there's some brown in that.
Yes.
He won the Gold Cup. Mick O'Toole trained.
Yeah.
Some brown and white.
Brown and cream check, brown sleeves and cap.
Well, there you are, brown and white. That's not bad, is it?
Right, one more here. Right?
77, it's only 20 years ago. From about 1962, I started to do charts, and I got little stickers and stamped the outline of a rider and put them on a board. I mean, that's last year's, and as you know, it's much easier to learn a colour than to unlearn it. And you've got to unlearn it and associate a different pattern with a horse, and this can be very daunting.
The night before a national, I've read that you became incredibly nervous and couldn't sleep and all the rest. I've noticed that you're a man that we never see on the eve of a national. You don't stay with the other commentators. You are a loner, and quite often seen dining alone with your colours and a glass of red and settling back to learn them in a restaurant.
Yes, yes. I like to be absolutely single-mindedly focused. Very, very boring, very unsociable, but you know, that's the way I've done it for a long time, and I hesitate to depart from it.
You still get as nervous as you did in the early days?
Yes, I think so, yeah.
What's the reason for that? What is it?
General apprehension, Jim. You know, this is it's such a big occasion, the national. There are so many reasons to find it daunting. It's of course the viewing figures are absolutely staggering worldwide. Then there's the other fact that those who go out to share this common danger, to accept this challenge, are mostly your friends. You know the horses well, and you have great respect and affection for them. And you hate the thought of them, you know, one or two of them not coming back. And this, you know, sadly is an element in the national. There have been horses killed, up to 4 in one race, 1954. That's why I so welcome the modification to entry. But I think it's a combination of factors that increase one's apprehension as you finally call them off. Once the tape goes up, as long as it does go up, and as long as we don't have a 1993 repeat, then I'm relatively relaxed. I'm happy when they're running.
What's this? This is where the
very back of that. You've got the 1947 bill, which is rather fun. The account from my boarding house, my bed and breakfast place.
So Mr. Sullivan,
Mr. Sullivan, yes. I mean, it's been misspelt for at least 79 years of my life, but I mean, but not quite as extravagantly as that. The marvelous thing about the National is you know, there's always a story, always a romantic story. I mean, how could you have a more romantic story, really, than 1981? If that was fiction, people would say it was much too far-fetched.
And there, John Thorne is the first to congratulate this courageous one champion who beat cancer. His horse, Aldeniti, survived 2 severe breakdowns and who've combined today to win chasing's greatest epic.
I heard a nice little story about Peter Bromley and yourself. Can you remember that one?
Oh, yes, that was when Peter used to more or less assist Clive and I in any area, you know. He'd take over the paddock or he'd take over commentary when necessary. I mean, you know, he was absolutely hero. And in '58, Peter had an opportunity to go to sound, to go to radio, that is. And Dimmock said to him, "Oh, don't do that. I mean, for goodness sake, stay with us," because he said, "You're number 2 to Peter O'Sullivan, and you'll take over from him, and he's not going to go on forever." So we always joke about this, and I guess he would have been about the longest living understudy of all time.
Any other memories we haven't touched on, do you think?
It's all memories, the National. I'm very privileged, very lucky, Jim, to have called so many outstanding races, to have been a part of the romance for so long.
Looking back on 50 years, has it gone quickly?
Very, very. Too quickly.
Well, he's a great man, Peter, there talking with Jim McGrath. Let's just take a check on the betting for the race. And we have co-favourites in Sunny Bay, Lord Ghislaine.
Your Royal Highness.
Favourites in Sunny Bay, Lord Ghislaine.
Your Royal Highness, Your Grace, ladies and gentlemen. Today we sing yet another milestone in the history of Aintree as we watch the 150th running of the Grand National. No less remarkable is the fact that Peter O'Sullivan has commentated on 1/3 of those 150 races. Let's dwell on that fact. One voice to call 1/3 of all the races. In the last 2 weeks, newspapers, the radio and television have been determined to publish a tribute to this great man, who today will commentate on his last National. Now it's our turn. Such is Peter's professionalism that I know he'll be anxious to return to his position on the roof to read the runners and riders for the first race. So without further delay, it gives me great pleasure to ask Her Royal Highness, the Princess Royal, to unveil this wonderful Angela Connor sculptured bust of the voice of racing, so generously donated by the Duke of Devonshire.
There we are. It's a wonderful moment for Peter. Great honour for him. And in his typical modest fashion, he said the other day that he hopes that his bust there won't frighten the horses. That's Peter. Now, many of the famous horses that have won the Grand National in recent years are involved in a parade here today. Let's hear a bit more about it as we join Richard Pitman.
Yes, thank you, Des. And from one, of course, human hero, Peter O'Sullivan, of this great race, we move on to the horses who have really shown their paces here. Hello Dandy is the one in shot, but of course the one we all remember is the horse that should have been here leading the parade, Aldeniti, who sadly passed away only 10 days ago. At the age of 27, he died peacefully in his stable, but we'll all remember him and Bob Champion for what they did. Well, those horses that have survived a great retirement are here today to parade in front of a vast crowd. Grittar, who was owned and trained by farmer Frank Gilman, well, he was a true hunter chaser, this horse. He came here and he captured everything against the pros. He's the oldest surviving horse at the moment. Grittar was ridden by 48-year-old Dick Saunders, who today is the chairman of the stewards panel. What a unique situation. Well done to Grittar. Hello Dandy, another horse who's had tremendous retirement. He's 23 now, of course. When Neil Doughty retirement, he's 23 now, of course. When Neil Doughty came up to beat Greasepaint, right hard under the stands rails. Well done to Neil. Richard Shaw's colours, his first runner in the race too. A horse that's been seen most times since the war, West Tip. He ran in it 5 times. He was second, he fell. He was 4th on 2 occasions, and he won in 1984. And that was Richard Dunwoody there. Richard getting the race that had eluded him, that he'd wanted for so long. A truly great Grand National horse, this, and a great jockey too. Mari Venture, the chestnut, led up by Steve Knight today, he was given this horse by the late Jim Joel when he retired, and Steve just uses him occasionally to hack. He's now head lad to Richard Hannon, but he'll remember this day when he partnered him to beat the Tsarevich, owned by Ivor Stragan. The Jim Joel's colours, no more worthy winner could there have been of this superb event. Rhyme and Reason is a horse that has retired to his owner, Juliet E. Reed stud at Newbury. He's done a lot of parading at local shows, and he shows his well-being at home. Still goes out with a jump and a kick in the morning. He was by the stallion Kemal, who's got a representative in today's race, ridden by Brendan Powell. The horse had almost been on the floor at Beecher's, but he recovered, and Brendan Powell knew that feeling that so few jockeys will ever know. The saddle had gone back. Little Polvere, amazing horse, because he was one of the rare ones to have been sold the week prior to the actual National. In the end, Jimmy Frost rode him and got some fantastic jumps out of this horse. Toby Balding was his new trainer, having taken him over from John Edwards. You don't need to have cosmetic beauty to be a handsome man when you've won this sort of race. Well, Mr. Frisk is still very active in his retirement. He was owned by Lewis Duffy, who gave him to Tracy Bailey. And Tracy has been eventing the horse. I saw him win a team chase recently. He really does enjoy his retirement, as I'm sure he did this win under Marcus Armitage, the last amateur to have won the race. He won comfortably in the end by 3/4 of a length, and his mother Sue was there to witness a very emotional success. Seagram, could there have been a more apt-named horse? Because he won the Seagram Grand National, and in doing so, he certainly stamped it for New Zealand breds. Lord Guyleen runs in today's race. He was bred in the Southern Hemisphere. He got up in the last few strides to deny Mark Pittman and Garrison Savannah what would have been a famous victory. But for Nigel Hawke, well, the arms in the air for David Barron's his trainer. It was a dream come true. The biggest horse in the race for many years, Party Politics. He's had all sorts of problems. His feet were bad, he couldn't breathe. He stands so high you had a step ladder to get on him. But that didn't stop him and Carl Llewellyn powering home. He came tight up the inside rail there. And when he did it, he really realised a dream for Nick Gaisley, who had fought so hard to keep him sound and make his date here. Minnie Homer, on the other hand, was small and a real character like his owner, Freddie Starr. This one was practically unbreakable and each year used to fire his riders into orbit. Freddie Starr wasn't here to see this gallant win. It was the second one for Richard Dunwoody, getting up to beat another West Country horse in Just So. He timed it absolutely beautifully. 94 winner, Minnie Homer. Well, Royal Athletes is the chestnut, handsome horse. He'd been third in the Cheltenham Gold Cup. We'd forgotten about him, but Jenny Pitman didn't. He was her second winner, owned by the brothers, Gary and Libby Johnson. He won at the age of 12. When he was powered home, he was ridden by Jason Titley in his first ever ride in the race. And he, again, showed that arm in the air. Can't believe that I've done it. And what about Rough Quest, here with Terry Casey, his trainer? 12 months ago, he came here only a fortnight after having been second in the Cheltenham Gold Cup. And when he won here, could it have been another drama? He came past Encore Peur on the run-in, crossed him, and there was a lengthy steward's inquiry. In the end, justice prevailed. Rough Quest won last year's National.
Well, here now with me is the trainer of the most famous winner of the Grand National of all time, of course, Red Rum, and that's Ginger McCain. And we've got Red Rum's bust there. You can probably see it behind us. But what was so different about Red Rum? I mean, physically, was it a different type of animal?
No, he's like a high-class flat horse, a mature high-class flat horse, not a 3 or 4-year-old. I mean, a horse as a flat horse should be when he's 7, 8, 9 and 10. He'd been allowed to develop. He was a lovely, lovely quality horse, not a great big tank of a chaser, just a quality racehorse.
And you've been trying to find his successor ever since, haven't you?
No, I haven't.
You haven't?
I will never, ever find his successor, never, ever. I don't know that I'd be capable of even looking after as well as we did his successor. I would love to have one, but I doubt I would ever find anything like it. It wasn't just himself, it was his whole outlook to life and his professionalism and everything, you know, it was a great combination.
Yeah. He wasn't a big horse, was he?
Bigger, people always said the little, but he was 16.
Oh, he always looked, when you saw him go past that finishing post, he was compact.
He was 16'2".
Was he? Yeah.
But I remember somebody once said a good fighter never looks a big man because he's always beautifully built and beautifully balanced. I think the same applied to Red Rum, basically.
Yeah. And he carried 12 stone to win it on one of those occasions,
and he didn't wobble around, look like he was going to sort of, you know, collapse, did he? He might have dropped dead on you, but he only knew one way to run his races out, and that was out and as true as a gun barrel, and that was him. Very, very professional.
Yeah. And was he a nice animal in latter years? I mean, I met the old horse up here a few times. I gave him a carrot one year. He nearly bit my hand off.
You can talk your desert orchids or anything. They couldn't walk in his shadow. I mean, the horse, he had a charisma second to none. He really did. The lovely thing about him was nobody had a bigger opinion of themselves than Red Rum had. Red Rum had the most tremendous opinion of himself, and he loved people.
You're a believer that horses feel that they have a sort of star quality.
No question about that.
You're sure of this, are you?
Good horses do. Good horses do. That's unquestionable. And he had it. You know what I mean? And whatever you said about him, he thought he was better than that anyway. You know,
yeah.
He did.
And what about the current crop today, for the big race today? Any particular fancy, Ginger?
Yes, I fancy, look, you know, Maurice Marshall's horse a little bit. What's named after her?
Which one are you talking about?
I've had a few glasses of wine,
right.
It's a bit late.
Yeah.
Stan Clark's horse, you know, Lord Gillane.
Oh, yes.
I watched him, you know, second in the Midlands National. I thought he would do. Got in a bit close to his fences, and these fences might just find him out, I feel. Right. But he came back from being third to be second without being knocked about on good ground. Didn't bottom him. I thought he'd have a good chance. Avro Hansen was the other one. I saw him just get beat by Jadami at Haydock Park. And I thought then, he's an novice, I know, but with great respect, these fences aren't quite the fences they are. Although I had a look at them last night.
They're still big enough.
And they're big enough, and when you look through the spruce, those old things are in there, and they're pretty solid, you know. There's no question about that at all.
Thank you, Ginger. Good to see you as ever, and thank you for all the pleasure you and that great horse gave us down the years of the Grand National.
It's this race course that is entitled to all the credit. It's a marvellous place.
Thank you so much. Let's take a look now at one of the horses that could make history today, one of the fancied runners for this year's race, and that's Go Ballistic.
Go Ballistic's a horse that it's very easy to become attached to. The person who shares his life is the stable's head girl, Susan Ruff. She rides him every day. He's a horse who once had a breathing problem. That's why he wears a special bridle to keep his tongue in the right place. It's only a year since he won his first race over fences, so he's a little bit short of experience. But this season, his local supporters have seen him go from strength to strength. He's won 2 good races at Ascot, and he finished 4th in the Gold Cup. But he's a slow starter, so don't expect to see too much of him on the first circuit.
And here's the man who will ride Go Ballistic this afternoon, Mick Fitzgerald, who won, of course, last year. And have you lived down that famous quote you gave us? I mean, you keep getting reminded of it, don't you?
I don't think I'll be able to forget it for a while anyway. I'll probably make sure that I know what I'm saying next time.
You said it was better than sex, didn't you, winning the Grand National? And Yeah, I hope you've been proven wrong in the interim.
I think I have.
What about your chances today?
I think I've got a very good chance. You know, the horse isn't anywhere near as experienced as Brook Crest was, but he does come into the race, the form choice. He's got 30 fences to jump, 4.5 miles to gallop. If he jumps every one of the 30 fences, I'm sure he'll be there or thereabouts.
You didn't ride it in the Gold Cup, did you, Tony McCoy did, but how well do you know the horse?
I know him very well. You know, I've been lucky. I've ridden him, probably ridden him about 10 times, I should think, in all. Went down and schooled him again the other day, so I know him inside out, really.
Yeah. Do you know the history of a jockey winning 2 years running?
I do. Brian Fletcher was the last one, and none other than Red Rum. You know, this lad's got a fair bit to live up to if he's going to emulate Red Rum.
The last man to do it on different horses was Brian Marshall back in the 50s. So that would be something if you could emulate that particular feat. Anyway, Mick, best of luck to you, and thank you for being with us.
I hope
and
I see you back in the corner at 4 o'clock.
We hope so. Thank you very much indeed. That's Mick Fitzgerald. Let's take a check on the betting as it stands at the moment. So we still have those co-favourites, Sunny Bay, Lord Ghislaine and Go Ballistic. Wild Heart is much fancied at 10 to 1. Low Stragoni, we heard from Brad. He thinks he's got a good chance on that. He's only been round twice in 11 rides. Well, this is his 11th ride today. Nathan Ladd is one of Jenny Pitman's runners. Jason Titley, he's won. He won a couple of years ago for her. Master Oaks, the top weight with Norman Williamson, is a 33 to 1 shot. Dexter Dove is one of the greys. Now they're 40 to 1 shots and 50 to 1 shots. Brandon Powell is the former winning jockey of the Grand National. He rides Celtic Abbey today. Now the Vast Outsiders. Carl Llewellyn's another winning jockey. He's got a big outside, 100 to 1 shot on Camelot Night today. And Plastic Space Age was one that pulled out this morning. So there we have it. That's currently the situation. Now, do you know this lady? She rode in the Grand National, G. Armitage, a few years ago, and you rode that horse, how are you? You rode that horse GA, which you told me at the time had nothing to do with your name.
He didn't. He was named after the owner, funnily enough, but everyone seems to think it's named after me.
Quite
Just
extraordinary.
a nice coincidence.
It's a lovely coincidence. You suffered from some bad injuries which stopped your riding career, didn't you?
Yes, thirdly, the final one was a broken back. I was very lucky not to actually quite sever the spinal cord. So I didn't remain paralysed or anything awful like that. So I was very, very lucky.
Thank God for that.
But I did actually finish my career, which is very sad.
Yes, because one year I think you were going to run in the National, ride in the National, and with your brother Marcus was going to ride in the same race, and it didn't turn out quite like that.
No, sadly the week before I rode a very safe horse who started favourites. My last ride, because I was going to look after myself this time, because this had happened several times before when I got injured, very close to the race. And the horse picked up off too far off a hurdle and smashed my knee.
Yeah, and Marcus of course had won.
And he went and won.
Yeah.
Quite a funny little thing happened there. Wogan very much wanted to see both of us on the
Wogan?
championship
Who would
together.
Wogan be? Terence Wogan. Ah, that Wogan.
He wanted to have us both on together. And when I was injured, no, we're not interested. We didn't want Marcus on his own. Marcus went and won the race, and they were gutted.
Oh, right, absolutely. So you don't ride at all these days, then? Do you miss it? Would you like to be out there? Why are there no lady jockeys these days? For year after year, we had a lady jockey in the race.
We had a very bad time with injuries and things, and I think it's put a few people off putting us up. It's just we've gone out of fashion a little bit, I think.
The ladies have gone out of fashion.
They will be back.
They will be back. Okay, well, thank you for the moment. When we speak again a little later on, I want you to tell our viewers who you think might win the race today. And
very open race.
Very open race. Where have they got their money on the right one or the wrong one or something like that? Thank you very much, G. Armitage, for the moment. But now it's time to go racing. Our first race of the afternoon, and we will join Peter O'Sullivan for the runners and the riders.
Number 1 is Dream's End, ridden by Leighton Aspel. 2 is Stompin, a dual course winner, ridden by Jim Cullity. 3 is Clifton Beat, Charlie Swan. 4, Direct Route, Tony Dobbin. 5, Zabadi, Richard Johnson. You'll note that Edelweiss du Moulin is a non-runner. 7 is Hamilton Silk, ridden by Jamie Osborne. 8 is Shankar, Mr. Robert Thornton. 9 is Shining Edge, Lorcan Noir. 10, Secret Spring,
Mark Richards. 11, Teano Gold, ridden by Steve Wynn. 12, Kaitak, ridden by Finbar Leahy. 13 is Forrestal, or Forestall if you like, Timmy Murphy. 14 is Most Equal, Jerry Supple. 15, Prize Fighter, Brown Story. 16, Rosenkrantz, Norman Williamson. 17 is Amlar, a grey, ridden by Brendan Powell. 18 is Blair Castle, ridden by Barry Fenton. And 19 is Frozen Sea, ridden by John Kavanagh. Here's how they bet.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to a windy betting ring. Still co-favourites of 3 in the Grand National, but no doubt about the favourite for our first race, Secret Spring. 6-1 in the offices this morning, plunged on all rates down to as low as 2-1. Now, of course, some bookmakers on the course will now be fielding against him. Let's have a look at the prices on this opening race and see what sort of price Secret Spring is. He should be very short. He's about 11-4. Having opened at 11-4, gone to 3-1 and back to 11-4. Then they go 11-2 Rosenkrantz, just nibbled there from 6-1. Hamilton Silk is 8-1 along with Stompin. Then it's 12-1 Dream's End, 14 Forrestal, 16 Zabadi, Direct Route and Shining Edge. Then they go 20-1 Prize Fighter and Clifton Beat. Kaitak's 20 from 25. Then they go 25-1 Tajano Gold, Shankar and Most Equal. It's 40-1 Frozen Sea and 50-1 the outsiders, Amla and Blair Castle.
Yes, welcome to the first race of this fantastic Martel Grand National Day. A lot of people here. Well, the first horse that we can see is Rosenkrantz there, Skew, with the diamond. We saw this win last week at Ascot, and the ground is the key. Even though he's by Sadler's Wells, he wants good ground.
Yes, it does. I think it's going to be a very competitive race. 19 runners, very sharp track round here. He's usually held up, this horse. I suppose Norman Williamson's job is going to be a little bit more difficult in trying to get a run. The bottom bend can be very difficult for jockeys, but he's gone up £8 in the handicap for that win. Makes it more difficult for him, but he is a very good horse.
Yes, and for the trainer, Venetia Williams, she's got 2 runners in the Martel National. An exciting day for her. Very open race this, as handicaps ought to be. Secret Spring. Now, Secret Spring with the stripes on there. Now, this horse, all along, Skew, they rated it, and it's really shown it from its form, hasn't it?
Yes, very well trained by Peter Hedger. It's Chichester, ridden by Mark Richards. Yes, this is still a novice. Lovely type of horse, great big, tall, long horse, isn't he? Be interesting to see how he handles the bends around here, but he's formed very good. He was second to San Martino at Kempton. He's already won at this meeting, and then he came up and won himself. But he hasn't run for 7 to 8 days, but he looks fit and ready to run for his life.
But they dodged Cheltenham specifically to come here with him. Well, there are all sorts here that we fancy. There is Stomping, who won this race 12 months ago. Henrietta Knight, Terry Biddlecombe, well, they've got, of course, full of oats in the National.
He's only just had the one run round here, one run this season, but he obviously likes it round this track.
Yeah, Jim Cullity having his first ride in the National today. 9-1 from 8s. Well, stacks of horses here you can give a chance to, and standing next to him is Zabadi. More of him later, but let's pick up on Direct Route from Howard Johnson's yard. Tony Dobbin, of course, has a ride in the National today, and a fancied one.
Yes, he's been a very consistent performer, this Direct Route. Pulled up last time, but he was hampered and looked to be lame, but he's fine now, so you can really forget that pulled up, ignore it altogether. Look to his form figures before, and on those he's got a good chance.
Well, what about the white colours with the spots here of Hamilton Silk? This horse finished second in the Tote Gold Trophy.
This is the form horse to me. He, as you say, he was second. I think he would have won when he fell at Newbury. They'll go a right gallop here. He's usually held up, and if there's any sort of hesitate by the leaders over the last couple of hurdles, he'll be there.
And Secret Spring is now 3-1 from 11-4. 6-1 Rosenkrantz, 8-1 Hamilton Silk, Stomping 9 from 8-1. It's 12-1, bar those 4.
Top weight here of 11.10 is Dream's End. This one will be in red colours with the pink diamond. And he had a run only 5 days ago on the flat Skew. He's good over hurdles. There he is, just coming into the shot. Pink hat, red colours there, pink diamond on the left of the picture.
Yeah, he's one of the horses that'll probably make the running. He seems to like the flat tracks like Wincanton as opposed to the hilly tracks of somewhere like Cheltenham. This is a flat left-handed track, and he's got Leighton Aspel taking the £3, bringing his weight down to £7. He's a very good claiming rider, Leighton Aspel, and
Yep, Peter Bowen trains almost in Ireland. He trains so far down in Haverfordwest in Wales. It's a long journey, but it looks like irons are being put in, goggles pulled down. It won't be very far away. Peter O'Sullivan will call the race.
18 of them in the absence of Edelweiss du Moulin. 9 flights to be jumped. Shankar just taking a turn. Kaitak is broadside to the tape. That's Kaitak in those corded colours. All crowding over towards the inside. A few appeals. Zabadi out the back. Also out the back is Secret Spring, but coming in to join him now, and that's it, and they're away. And Shankar a little bit slowly away, and the first to show is Prize Fighter. Prize Fighter going on from Amlar the Grey, Amlar the Grey, Prize Fighter. Just in behind them comes Stompin, then Forstall on the outside. Just in behind them, K-Tac. Racing towards the first flight, and the Grey, Amlar, leading them from Prize Fighter and Stompin over on the far side, and then Forstall, and then Direct Route, and behind them, Clifton Beat. Shankar, one of the back markers with Most Equal, who's actually last at the moment, and Amlar jumps the second in the lead from Prize Fighter and Stomping and K-Tac. Then Forstall. Over on the far rail is Rosenkrantz with quite prominent Shining Edge. They come to the next. Amlar from Prize Fighter, Stompin, K-Tac, Shining Edge on the far side, Forrestal on the near side. Direct Route comes next. And then Clifton Beat. And Tayano Gold. But it's still the Grey, Amlar. Taking him along from Prize Fighter, gap then of about 4 lengths to 4 to 5 lengths to Stompin. The favorite is the back marker now, Secret Spring, back marker of the 18 runners as they go over towards the far side, with Amlar leading Prize Fighter. Stompin on the inside, on the outer is Forrestal or Forstall. Just in behind them come K-Tac and then Shining Edge. Direct Route is next, and then Tayano Gold over the fourth. Rosenkrantz on the inner with Clifton Beat, and still the back marker. Mark Richards on Secret Spring, but the horse travelling well. He's just looks as though he's biding his time. Coming to the fifth, Amlar from Prize Fighter. K-Tac and Stomping and Forstall, then Direct Route. Making a little ground now towards the outside of the field is Secret Spring. Over number 6 of the 9 flights in all. And still Amlar making it from Prize Fighter, close to him. Then comes K-Tac just getting into the picture, nearly getting into it, I should say. But still Amlar from Prize Fighter. K-Tac on the inside. Tayano Gold's making good progress towards the outer, showing there boldly with his white face. Forstall is well there as well, so is Direct Route. Rosenkrantz is improving steadily under Norman Williamson. They're racing now towards the home turn in this Cordon Bleu handicap hurdle. They've got 3 flights left to jump, and it's Amlar the Grey from Prize Fighter, then comes Direct Route in third. Coming down towards the third last flight, Amlar, who's made just about all the running so far, from Prize Fighter, and Direct Route towards the near side. Direct Route making quite significant progress. Also getting into it is Shankar coming there on the near side. And now it's Prize Fighter, Direct Route and Shankar, these 3 from Clifton Beat. They're running down now towards the final flight, and as they do so, it's Direct Route on the far side, Shankar on the near side, Shankar from Direct Route, Shankar lands from Direct Route. And then comes Dreams End back in third place, racing up towards the line. It's Shankar on the near side, holding direct road as they race up towards the line. Putting in a tremendous finish is Dreams End, but Shankar hasn't won. Shankar the winner. Direct road is second and third Dreams End, and 4 Clifton Beat. That's the 1, 2, 3, 4 in the opener on Grand National Day, the Cordon Bleu handicap. First, number 8, Shankar, owned by International Plywood PLC, trained by David Nicholson, the champion trainer at the meeting so far, and ridden by Mr. Robert Thornton, who rides Don't Light Up in the Nationals. Second was number 4, Direct Route, owned by Mr. Chris Heron, trained by Howard Johnson, and ridden by Tony Dobbin, who rides Lord Gilleen in the big one. And third was number 1, the fast-finishing Dreams End, owned by Mr. T.G. Price, trained by Peter Bowen, and ridden by Leighton Aspel, with fourth, number 3, Clifton Beat. This is the winner. Another success for young Robert Thornton, who has his first ride later in the afternoon in the National. 18 years old. Robert Thornton, as I say, rides Don't Light Up in the big one. He returns to the winner's circle on Shankar.
It had been a good gallop, as we expected. The third horse, Dreams End, is nowhere in it at this point, comes from a long way back. But Shankar actually probably hit the front a shade too early. He was a bit mulish at the start, and although he goes there absolutely cantering under Robert Thornton, who probably can't believe his luck, 2 winners at the Cheltenham Festival, wins the Fox Hunters and comes here to take the first race on Grand National Day.
Yeah, and this is just Dreams End coming to third place now, and you watch, he just doesn't quite jump the last, and I wonder if that might not have cost him the race, but it cost him the chance of finishing much closer to Shankar. As you say, he did hesitate at the start. Robert Thornton's riding him beautifully here. He's just pushing him out with his hands and heels. Horse is putting his head up a little bit, but you know, he's in front, as you say, he's in front a long time. There's Dreams End really running on now, and as I said beforehand, you could have forgotten Direct Route's form. Bigger was pulled up last time, and he's really done a comeback and shown he's in good form again. And yes, I think if he jumped the last there, Dreams End would have been second.
And this is really David Nicholson's Liverpool, isn't it? 25 to 1 Shankar. The ball keeps rolling on.
For the third race, Cordon Bleu handicap hurdle race. First, number 8, Shankar, 25 to 1.
So, a great start to the afternoon for young Robert Thornton. That's his 24th winner of the season, and number 85 for David Nicholson. And the starting price is as follows.
And a great start to the afternoon for the bookmakers. Shankar, the winner there, at 25 to 1. Second, Direct Route at 16 to 1. Third, Dreams End, 12 to 1. And fourth, Clifton Beat at 16 to 1. And the totes win £22.80, places 380, 270, 340, 620. And the disappointing favourite there, number 10, Secret Spring, 3 to 1.
Now, have you ever been at home and watched the National on a Saturday and thought, I'd like a horse in the National, so it'd be on the telly? That's what this lady did.
Absolutely.
Mrs. Billy Bond. That's right, isn't it?
That is right.
You watched it on the telly, you thought,
yes.
I want one of those.
Yeah.
And you found a few bob and put it together, and you've got Belmont King running in the big race this afternoon.
Yes. And that's been my dream.
Has it?
Yeah.
Have you enjoyed watching the National on the TV down the years?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. But I suppose I've never had the finances to buy such a wonderful horse.
And how did it come about? How did you go about getting this horse?
I suddenly thought 3 years ago I would like to own a racehorse. So my daughter-in-law, whose father, I think is her father, knows a breeder of racehorses, and he put me in touch with Paul Nicholls. And I said, Paul Nicholls, will you please go to Ireland and get me the best jumper you can find?
And
Which he did.
Yes, Belmont King. We've got a picture of it here,
He is
eating up nicely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's won a few races, hasn't it?
Oh, yes.
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 One at Chepstow.
But he's only been in
recently?
racing because he was, I don't know, I think he broke a leg, or not broke a leg, but he injured himself and he was out. I've only had him over 2 years, that's all.
Right. And are you enjoying the experience?
Oh, I'm absolutely thrilled.
So this is your first trip to actually to Aintree, is it?
Yes, yes.
What do you make of it? What do you think of the place?
Well, I mean, it's pure luxury for me. I wouldn't want to be in the milling crowds because I'd be bewildered.
Oh, you're being looked after,
But
are you?
I'm being so well cared for here. It's luxury. It's lovely.
Now, how are you going to misbehave if this horse wins? I mean, what will you do if this horse actually wins?
I don't know. I just don't know. I should be legless to start with. And my family the same.
Yes.
But, oh, I shall be over the moon.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, it's a good day and a wonderful experience. And you've realised a dream already by owning a racehorse that a lot of people would like to do, but it's an expensive business, isn't it?
Very.
Yes.
But I think that you want a good horse. It's no good having an also then. You're either going to have a good horse or nothing is not worth.
Good luck today with Belmont King, Mrs. Billy Bond. Nice to see you and thank you for coming to talk to us.
Thank you very much.
Okay, excellent.
Love.
There we are. Now, a grey horse won that last race. It's 36 years since a grey won the National. Sunny Bay is a grey horse and one of the co-favourites for the Martel Grand National this afternoon. It's a bit of a fragile horse, and its trainer, he's had his recent problems as well.
Ireland, the patchy rain spreading from the north.
Well, that's just about over Liverpool, that rain. If they moved it to the right a little bit, it would definitely be over Liverpool. That right-hand drop, you know, might just be falling on Aintree.
While most trainers are worrying about whether their horses will be sound enough to run, last week, Sunny Bay's trainer Charlie Brooks was lame himself, monitoring weather reports in hospital and recovering from a knee operation.
Unfortunately, I had an operation about 2.5 years ago to put 2 artificial ligaments in, and it got infected, and the joints got infected. And I've now had 4 operations to try and get rid of the infection.
Can we have a look at it?
Yeah, why not? It's actually not a lot to see, to be honest with you. I have to keep ice on it to try and keep the inflammation down, but as you can see from my other knobbly knee, it's a little bit bigger than the other one. I think the nurses felt a bit sorry for me on Saturday because I had 4 runners, so I got a taxi around to a betting shop in St John's Wood High Street. You know, the punters were a little bit surprised when I walked in, and pretty shirty when I didn't tell them to get on florid.
But you put some money on for the nurses, did you?
I did. I had a few quid on for the nurses. They were pleased enough about that.
You're keeping in touch via telephone, but it must be incredibly frustrating.
It is. I mean, obviously I haven't seen Sunny Bay for a week, and I'm told that probably increases a horse's chances quite significantly. But you know, if you're a trainer, the most important thing is to have a really good team. It doesn't matter, you know, when. Your trainer is only as good as the team around him. And I'm lucky I've got a very good team. And I'm sure they're doing a good job. But I'm looking forward to seeing him tomorrow.
Finally released and back at the stables made famous by Fred Winter, Charlie already has a difficult decision to make.
It's been decided that Jamie Osborne will ride Sunny Bay. It's no slight against Graham Bradley, who's my stable jockey, but Jamie won on him at Haydock, and it's been decided to let Jamie stay on board and keep the combination together. And it's one of those horrible decisions that has to be made in racing sometimes. It's never easy to make the decisions, and somebody always misses out, you know, and I feel sorry for Brad, but, you know, on this occasion, that's the way the coin has fallen. One of his great attributes is that he's very deep-chested. If you look through here where the girth is, he's got a lovely big deep chest, and he's got a broad chest as well. And that's very important for a staying horse, in my opinion. And he's got a good back end. They say that a racehorse should have big eyes, big ears, and a big back end. The eyes and the ears show the character. This horse gives you his all.
Charlie, just explain why Sunny Bay spends most of his day in a field. It's quite unusual that for a racehorse.
Well, it is, but at the beginning of the season he ran badly, and we found he was suffering from the after effects of a respiratory virus. So we keep him out in the fresh air as much as possible for his lungs, really. But I'm a great believer in it, and if I had my way, I'd train all my horses from the field, because naturally that's where they should be, out and about, wandering around and on the move all day. And they love it, and they don't go crazy, they don't gallop around. They, you know, once they're used to going out, they just go out and have a mosey around, and mentally I think it's great for them.
These sheep seem very friendly. Do they get on well with the horses?
They get on very well with the horses, and they're useful. They graze the paddocks and keep the worm cycle down, and they don't eat the horses' tails. The trouble with cattle, which do the same job, is that when you come back in the morning, your horse hasn't got any tail left, whereas at least the sheep does leave the tail alone, so they get on better together.
Now, Brian, you're the one who's really been in charge with Charlie banged up in hospital. What's this horse like to train? He seems very laid back.
It's pretty straightforward, really. I mean, he just does his 3 up the hill in the morning and 2, as you see, in the evening, and he's no problem at all. It's all gone according to plan.
And do you ever have a sit on him yourself?
No, I haven't. No. I've got a hack I ride nowadays.
But he looks pretty safe, doesn't he?
He's a Christian, absolute Christian. You could put your, as I say, you could put your baby on him, and he never says boo, you know. He's straightforward.
Sunny Bay's biggest fan is his lad, Phil Sharp, but he won't be tempting fate by having a bet.
I backed him twice since I've looked after him, and the first time I backed him was at Ascot. He fell over. The second time I really fancied him, I backed him at Sandown, slipped over and broke his jaw. So I thought, right, no, that's it. So I'm not going to back him anymore. Forget it. So, no, he doesn't carry any of my money anymore.
The big day is edging closer, and a final schooling session with his jockey, Jamie Osborne.
Yeah, he looks in great form, doesn't he? Yeah, I think he looks better now than he did at Haydock. He certainly looks tighter and fitter. Yeah, he couldn't look better. The feel that he gave me at Haydock had Grand National written all over it. His jumping, I thought, was very clever, very accurate that day. He'd stay all day on ground that we'd thought possibly might be a little bit lively for him at Haydock. He's absolutely trounced them. Yes, there were excuses for Low Stragone, but you know, there weren't many excuses for the others, and I mean, basically he's won half the track. So if the handicap were done again now, he'd be carrying more weight. I think that he's the horse that everybody's got to beat.
But the way he jumps, you'd sort of think, you'd feel fairly safe coming to the chair, wouldn't you?
You would. I think if he gets that far, then he'll be well into it. But it's just the first 3 fences probably are, you know, worried that he'll go and have a look at this big, lovely, green, inviting fence and
go
fire himself up into the air, come down on his nose, and it'll all be over.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'd just be a bit worried that he might go and overjump early on. Not a lot we can do about that. That's his department.
The lack of rain is still a worry, but the latest racecourse facts is upbeat. The ground is good to soft in places.
I find it very hard to believe, to be honest with you. But maybe they haven't got weather like this, but we're not that far from Liverpool here. I just hope when we get there on Thursday, there will be plenty of good to soft patches, but I find it hard to sort of really see how they can be. I think my face has got longer and longer as the sun and the week's gone on. Without wanting to sound very pessimistic, because I'm not really pessimistic, but I'm sort of self-protective, and I don't want to let myself start to think that we could win, because it's all the harder when you don't win.
So you haven't gone through any of the sort of dreams in the middle of the night where your interview with Des afterwards, that sort of thing? No,
I definitely have not. I think if I've gone through any dreams, it's a horse box breaking down on the way there, or something like that. And I don't really have any superstitions. I'm not a superstitious person. Although I find, you know, it's important to have a drink the night before. You know, that's probably my only superstition.
As an amateur, Charlie rode in the Grand National himself on Inshore and is fond of telling people how he made the early running alongside Lannerai.
I don't think there's a lot really that I can tell Jamie. If there is, he shouldn't really be riding a horse, should he?
You should be instead.
And I definitely shouldn't be riding a horse, that's for sure. But I might walk around with Jamie. I might be able to persuade Liverpool to lend me a golf buggy or something.
Like the Queen Mother, do it in style.
Absolutely.
The watering system has done its job, and Sunny Bay finally gets the go-ahead. He'll bid to be the first Greys since Nicholas Silver 36 years ago to win the race. The waiting is over.
I think it's safe. I don't think it is ideal, but I think it's safe. I mean, there isn't a horse in the world you wouldn't run on this ground. When you agree with that?
I think exactly as Charlie said, it's safe. It is faster than ideal, probably for Sunny Bay, but you couldn't not run him on it. You know, it's probably good ground.
And what do you think of this, the first fence?
Lovely, isn't it?
Lovely, isn't it?
It doesn't look that big, really, does it?
No, I think it looks fine. What do you think?
Claire Balding with that. Sunny Bay, one of the favourites for the big race today. Now, occasionally a broadcaster gets a bit lucky, I think. So I've got a few guests here. Look at this lot. They've all come from Singapore for the race, haven't you? Now, what's brought you here today? What's special about the Grand National?
I think the atmosphere here.
You like the atmosphere?
Something special.
Yeah.
And I heard that this is the
150th running it is.
Yes.
Yes,
I think
okay.
it's very special to be here.
And have you watched it on television back in Singapore, this race before?
Never.
You've never seen it before?
Yeah, it's first time. It's exciting.
Oh,
it's thrilling.
Right, wonderful. So what do you all do in Singapore? What do you do down in Singapore?
What do I do? What do you mean by
To
that?
work? Do you...
Yes, I work as a PR manager in Singapore, yes. Every one of us is working as a PR manager.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yes.
Right. So what have you backing for the race today? What do you for the big race?
The number?
Oh, you go on the numbers, do you?
Yes.
Do you like Sunny Bay that we've just been talking about? That's
the
number
Sunny
4,
Bay,
I think.
number 4, yes.
You go with that one?
Yes.
Any ideas what's going to...
Sorry?
Which horse are you thinking of backing? Perhaps you're not thinking of backing a horse. I mean, there's lots of other things to do here.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah?
Come on, Jenny.
So you obviously like the idea of that. Right, what do you think of you...
Which race now is racing?
Pardon?
Which race now? So,
which
race is Martel Golden Brew. So we bear it.
Okay, but for the big race?
Yeah, sure.
Grand National.
Okay, fine, the Grand National. I think we got some of that clear. Thank you very much, ladies. I hope you have a very special day here, because of course it is a very special day.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes,
And a safe journey back to Singapore eventually.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
you very much indeed. Right, we're going to go back to safer territory and Gary Richards back at Lambourne.
Well, it's a sunny day, so go for Sunny Bay. We've been hearing a lot about him. Trained by Kim Bailey. Now, back here in Lambourne, Kim Bailey's stables are just up the road, some 2 or 3 miles. He's the choice of the landlord in the Wheels pub here in Lambourne. You get all sorts of local racing personalities in the pub. There's a big atmosphere building, as you can imagine. And we're going to have a word with the landlord. Steve, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Good atmosphere in here, and all sorts of people offer you tips, don't they?
Yeah, most of them would take PG tips off them.
But I know you've had a good bet this afternoon.
Well, I backed Buckball Bennett to win £1,000, but I think the grain's dried up a bit, so I'm not that hopeful.
Okay, what about the local horses? Can you talk favourably about them at all?
Well, Sunny Bay's only got 10 stone 3, must have a great chance. Osborne's riding, and must be thereabouts, even though the ground's probably a little bit firm for that.
Okay, now here's somebody that knows one of the horses extremely well. It's a lad called Mitchell Barnard. Good afternoon. Now tell us, which horse do you know well and why?
The horse is now the lad of Mrs. Pitman's, and I was lucky enough to be associated with the horse as a youngster. And we sort of broke him in, myself and another chap called Peter, who was assistant at the time.
So you used to ride him?
No, I never rode him. We did the groundwork with him, and we sort of get one of either the conditional jockeys or whoever to ride them away.
And could you tell in those early days he was going to go on to possibly great things?
He certainly came off the lorry at 5 o'clock in the morning from Ireland very well and looking, you know, as Jenny's youngsters do, you know, fantastic. And, you know, hopefully he'll go on and do something nice today.
Okay, you must have had a fiver on him, I would guess.
I've had a little each way bet on him, just to, you know, out of interest more than anything else.
Okay, here's a former jockey, Tommy Jennings. Now, I think you rode in the Scottish National, the Welsh National, and the Midlands National, and you did quite well, didn't you?
Yes, I finished up on the floor in all 3.
Maybe we shouldn't ask your advice then today, but what are your thoughts?
I think Aberranton will win.
Aberranton. Why are you so confident, Tom?
Well, he's a good 3-mile hurler. He loves the ground. As long as he just negotiates the fence all right, I think he'll win.
Okay, hope you're right. There we are. Good atmosphere here at Lambourne. We're going to sit back now and enjoy the Grand National with Des and the team.
Thank you, Gary. You know, it's 22 years since an Irish-trained winner won the Grand National, Escargot, back in 1975. What about an Irish chance today? Here's a look at 2 of them, Antonin and first, Wild Hyde.
Irish hopes of ending a national drought stretching back 22 years
seemed to rest on the handsome head of Wild Hyde. 3 weeks ago, a punter walked into a London betting shop, produced £50,000 in cash, and put the lot each way on Wild Hyde at 16 to 1. He stands to collect £500,000 if the horse wins. Last year, Wild Hyde lost his jockey at the Canal Turn. This time, he returns as one of the favourites. And the presence of the record-breaking Irish champion, Charlie Swan, on his back is a tip in itself.
Antonin, like his trainer Sue Bramall, is a fairly recent arrival in Ireland. They moved from Yorkshire last summer, and there's no question that the mellow climate of County Wexford has done Antonin a power of good. 3 years ago, he was a top-class horse, and this spring, he's recaptured much of his old form, notably with a runaway win at Punchestown.
The final fence now, and Antonin pops over it and putting up a really nice performance. Antonin romping to victory in the Ericsson GSM Grand National Trial. King of the Gales will be second if he jumps the last fence safely. He's over all right. Carrigan Kerrier giving chase, but up the line, Antonin romps home.
That was the first time that Conor O'Dwyer had ridden him. They certainly clicked, and Conor's on board today. He's a horse who's overcome a number of physical problems, but the change of scenery, a course of medication, and the luck of the leprechauns could make him a national winner.
2 Irish hopes for today. Now 2 more guests for you to meet. Mike Atherton, of course, the England cricket captain. And this is Charlie Fenwick, who won the National on Ben Nevis back in 1980. We'll talk about that in a second. You're enjoying a day away from the cares of being the England cricket captain. They're saying that the cricket's no good anymore, aren't they?
Well, some harsh words in wisdom the other day, but we're going all right.
You're going all right. Looking forward to the season, the Aussies?
Absolutely. Should be a fantastic season with Australia here.
Great. Keeping your spirits up?
Very much so.
Get so much flack, don't you, in the cricket world these days?
Well, it goes with the job, but, you know, we finished well in New Zealand, so we're very happy.
Great. Now, what about today? You're on a day off, you're enjoying yourself. Have you picked the winner?
Well, I've gone on Go Ballistic and Antonin, who we've just seen there, so we'll see.
We'll see what happens. You had any luck so far?
No, I backed Rosenkrantz in the first race, came nowhere.
Oh, OK. Well, best of luck, Mike. Nice to see you. Now, Charlie, it's good to see you here. How often have you been back to Aintree since that win in 1980?
This is the first time. I haven't been back since then.
Is that right?
My son is in college in London, so we were going to come see him and see the National at the same time.
You rode Ben Nevis in the race the previous year, didn't you? And what happened that year?
We were brought down at the chair. 9 horses were brought down at the chair that year, and we were one of them.
Right.
Quite a frustration.
And the year you won it, I mean, there was a deluge that year, wasn't there?
Yeah. Standing water, as I recall, between the as you go to the to beaches, there was standing water. Quite an event.
And how did you get interested in the Grand National in the first place? Because the horse was bred in America, rather like yourself.
No, the horse was bred in Yorkshire.
Oh, was it originally?
He was bred in Yorkshire, and my father-in-law bought him on a shooting trip over here and brought him back.
Brought him back to the States.
And I had been riding in races over there. I think I was originally interested in the National because of the success that Jay Trump had had. And Jay Trump had come from our area, and he'd been trained by my uncle for a period of time. So we were very intimately involved with that. And the rest was history.
Yeah. And the day, do you remember the day specifically, the enjoyment of the occasion? A lot of jockeys say that they win it, if they win the Grand National, it goes by in a blur, you know?
Well, there's no question about that. It was halfway back to the Lambourne area before it really began to sink in that it had really happened. Because so much was happening in so short a period of time. It was tough to absorb everything. But it's still just as fresh today as it was then.
And I think there were only 4 finishers that year, weren't there?
4 finishers, yeah.
How extraordinary.
It was very heavy going, which we thought our horse didn't like at all. But you wouldn't know unless you're there and running. So.
And what about today? You're looking forward to the race again today, being here, and have you picked one that you fancy at all?
I haven't paid a whole lot of attention. Obviously, I would be interested in whatever Tim Forster had. So he trained Ben Nevis for us, so back anything he's got, just for the fun of it, just to be involved.
Charlie Fenwick and Mike Atherton, thank you for being with us. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Right, we're going to join Peter O'Sullivan very shortly for the next race, and he has a special guest there with him today, the Princess Royal. He's going to see how the master does the business. Peter, over to you.
Number 1 is Arctic Kinsman, ridden by Carl Llewellyn. 2 is Lord Dorset, ridden by Jamie Osborne. 3, Time Won't Wait, runner-up last year to Arctic Kinsman, ridden by David Bridgewater now instead of Jamie Railton. 4 is Celibate, ridden by Richard Dunwoody. 5 is El Zoba, ridden by Chris Maud. 6, Mr. Oddie, Jim Calotti. 7, Jatib, Derek Byrne. 8, Political Tar, Tony Dobbin. 9 is Wee River, Jason Callahan. And 10 is Down the Fell, ridden by Norman Williamson. And here's how they bet.
And yes, that gamble on Wild High continuing down here in the ring. I've just seen a single bet recorded to take out more than £120,000 in one hand. The rate it's going Wild High could be favourite. Now in our next race, the Martel Red Rum Chase, nothing like that at the moment, as we can see from the prices. Quite wide open betting, despite the fact we've only got 10 runners. And I think favourite is Celibate. He should be about 7 to 2-ish. We'll just have a look at the prices and see what the bookmakers are offering. Celibate 7 to 2 from 4 to 1. El Zoba very, very weak there. Look at that, 7 to 2 now out to 5s. Arctic Kingsman opened at 4 to 1, drifting through all rates to 11 to 2. Time Won't Wait is 11 to 2 from 5 to 1. 13 to 2 Lord Dorset. 14 Political Tower, Jatib and Wee River. 14 is Mr. Oddie. And it's 20 to 1 Down the Fell.
Crowd are really gathering. They're all wanting to get a pitch to see the Martel National itself, but this race holds an awful lot of interest for us. Nearest to us is Wee River, Jason Callahan. Just behind him is Woody on Celibate there. Celibate just having his girths done up. He's done very little wrong this season, Skew.
He's been an excellent servant to his trainer, Charlie Mann. Little horse, jumps really well, and as you say, he's been running in a top class company, and just found Mulligan too good for him at Warwick, and then he was third in the Arkle at Cheltenham.
Yes, only beaten 7 lengths there. Well, there are all sorts of horses here come into the reckoning. El Zoba's in the colours of David Johnson, who's got a tremendously powerful string with Martin Pipe.
Yes, he won the two-mile novice champion chase with All Royale, but watched this horse fall at Leicester, and then he put up a good performance when he completely outclassed his rivals with a bold jumping performance at Hereford, and then for a novice he ran a cracking race at Cheltenham. Just found Uncle Ernie too good for him. He's got to be very much respected. 5 to 1 from 9 to 2. Yes, here's the top weight Arctic Kinsman, horse that won this race last year. Beautiful horse, great big tall horse. Has a bit of trouble with his back, or some ligaments in his back, and he has to be massaged before he runs. And he was in the 2-mile champion chase at Hereford at Cheltenham, and he broke a blood vessel on the way to post. Now, the lady that treats him said it could have been to do with a massage. It sometimes will make them bleed, but I'm not sure about that. There's the horse number 3, Time Won't Wait. He was second to Arctic Kinsman last year. This is ridden by David Bridgewater, replacing Jamie Relton. This horse is usually held up for a late run, trained by the impressionist Richard Phillips.
Yes, and owned by the old Barks Partnership, a great crowd of jolly hunting persons from Oxfordshire. He comes very late on the scene, this horse. Lord Dorset, Skew. Now, this horse has just been a little bit disappointing this year, hasn't he? Because he is among the top of the 2-milers.
That's right. He had a very stiff task last time when he was taking on the champions at Cheltenham. No, I think he's been running consistently well. It's very difficult for these horses when they reach the top of the handicap. The handicapper gets hold of them a little bit. He's got plenty of weight today, 11 stone 4. You know, these are the best handicappers in the country. We've seen the champions or the condition horses yesterday running with the Viking Flagship and Martha's Son, and now we've seen the best handicappers.
Well, Jatib we're looking at now. Jatib has come up against Celibate, and he wasn't quite good enough to hold him, was he, at Cheltenham?
No, he doesn't seem to like Cheltenham. I've watched him run a number of occasions. I watched him beat Strong Promise, actually, at Market Raise, and I think that was his first win over fences. Formerly trained by David Nicholson. Very decent little horse, but slightly disappointing last year. Last run, obviously Marita Jones thinks that's behind him, and she's got him spot on for today.
Just going
Number
through
8 is Political Tower, mount of Tony Dobbin, trained up in Scotland, Selkirk. He's a useful handicapper. He's won 11 wins out of 35 outings over fences. He's 10 years of age. He landed 2 wins over 2 mile for Christmas and easily beat Regal Romper in February before running Uncle Ernie to 9 lengths over 2 mile in his latest start. And as we said, Uncle Ernie went on and won at Cheltenham.
Tony Dobbin rides. Good to get a race under your belt over fences, even if it's the mild May here. What about Wee River? He's owned by Sean Graham, one of the pair of twins, Sean and Brian Graham from Belfast, and their mother won the Fox Hunters yesterday.
Yeah, lovely people, the Grahams. As you say, they're bookmakers in Belfast. I've known them for, well, it sounds awful, but being a jockey, you've known the bookmakers. No, but they used to have a horse in training with me, and they're great fun. But Wee River, he's a winner twice from 9 runs over hurdles, and he looks a progressive chaser. He landed his first win for 4 attempts in 1994-95. He was landing a 7th success when sorry, I got him wrong there. He was 7 lengths, 2 lengths too good for Regal Romper.
Skew, we're on Mr. Oddie now, a horse for Jeff King, who's been very consistent, but let's join Peter. They're not going to hang around, Peter.
They'll soon be facing up to the first of the 12 fences, these winners of 77 races between them.
Get him off the train.
Mr. Oddie towards the left. Political Tower just turned round now, the cross belts.
Yeah. I'm not really told whether he is
Time won't wait, just having a job to get in. He's over towards the right as we see them behind Celibate and Lord Dorset. Simon Morant just waiting for a line. He'll be starting his 3rd national this afternoon later, and that's it. And they're away and racing towards the first, with the first to show El Zoba from Mr. Oddie, and all safely over the first. And they're not hanging about either. Quite a sharpish left-hand turn into the straight with El Zoba taking him along from down the fell. Here comes Mr. Oddie. Arctic Kinsman's towards the outside. El Zoba from down the fell, Mr. Oddie and Arctic Kinsman all safely over that. And this is the first of the ditches. El Zoba the leader. From down the fell and Arctic Kinsman and Mr. Oddie. Jatib jumped it a little bit in rear. Coming down to the fence, it'll be the last on the next circuit. El Zoba the leader. From down the fell and Mr. Oddie, and over on the far side Wee River. The near side Arctic Kinsman. Celibate comes next. And then last year's runner-up, Time Won't Wait. Lord Dorset on the inside. Political Tower, and Jatib is the back marker, and El Zoba leads them from down the fell. Wee River on the inside of Arctic Kinsman the grey. Then comes Mr. Oddie. Going a good clip they are too. They race over to the far side with Chris Maud, the leader on El Zoba. He rides Dextra Dove in the big one later this afternoon. Down the fells pursuing him, and then Wee River. Behind Wee River is Arctic Kinsman. And then, oh, and El Zoba's gone there. El Zoba's gone at that one. Celibate has been brought down, and also Time Won't Wait has gone too. He's been brought down, so 3 of them out at that fence, and now the leader is down the fell. Down the fell, the leader. Political Tower went at that one. Arctic Kinsman's there on the outside in second. Third is Wee Fell. Then Lord Dorset and Mr. Oddie, and they're the only ones remaining, as Jatib is virtually tailed off, and he very nearly refused at that one. So it's down the fell. Who leads them? From Wee River, and last year's winner going up on the outside of down the fell. Arctic Kinsman with Wee River 3rd. Mr. Oddie 4 and 5 Lord Dorset. Just these 5 left now as they come down to the next fence. 4 from home. And still down the fell, and Norman Williamson, who's reunited with Master Oates later this afternoon in the National. The leader from Arctic Kinsman, last year's winner, now the challenger as they come down towards the 3rd last in this Martel Red Rum chase. Arctic Kinsman towards the near side, down the fell towards the far side. Down the fell, led there from Arctic Kinsman. Moving into third is Wee River, coming down to the final ditch. Lord Dorset's making good progress over on the far side. Down the fell in Arctic Kinsman. Oh man, Arctic Kinsman a faller at that one. Only 4 left in the race now as they come down towards the final fence in the Martel Red Rum Chase. And it's down the fell, being chased by Lord Dorset on the far side. Down the fell from Lord Dorset, then comes Wee River. This is the final fence. Down the fell, jumps it 2 lengths clear of Lord Dorset, then Wee River, and then Mr. Roddy, and racing up towards the line, and down the fell, and Norman Williamson win the Martel Red Rum Chase. In second is Lord Dorset, third is Wee River, and the only under finisher in fourth is Mr. Roddy. And so the result of the Martel Red Rum Chase is first, number 10, Down the Fell, owned by Mrs. S. Johnson, trained by Howard Johnson and ridden by Norman Williamson. Second was number 2, Lord Dorset, owned by Mr. John Hogg, trained by Alistair Charlton and ridden by Jamie Osborne. And third was number 9, Wee River, owned by Mr. Sean Graham, trained by George Moore and ridden by Jason Callahan.
Well, this was an amazing race because a lot of grief early on. Time won't wait. Celibate and Elzoba's first to go, Skew, and in behind, Wee River just takes evasive action. Celibate falls of his own volition, but looking behind us, Time won't wait goes, and Bridgie is hung up in the irons just for a second there.
Yes, that's the jockey's nightmare, is to be hung up because you can get carried away and pulled underneath other horses and get very, very seriously injured. There we lose another one there. That's Political Tower. And Tony Dobbin, are you saying about these jockeys trying to get a feel of the fences before riding the National? They won't want to be rolling around on the floor like that. It's very frightening at the best of time.
Well, here your own horse, Arctic Kinsman, was just challenging in second place, went in deep here to the bottom.
That's right, went in deep, overcorrected, just landed it a bit steep, and down he goes. I hope Carl and he are right. They both get up quickly. But Norman Williamson has really taken the race by the scruff of the neck from the last stand, the back there, on down the down the fell, and Norman is a great man riding at the last when he sets a horse alight. Really keeps the momentum up on the horse. You know, when you set a horse like this, it's no use hesitating now. You've got to go for everything. Can't change your mind. There, he's driven him in, and that jump really clinches the race for him. Jamie Osborne and Lord Dorset looked beat once or twice down the back, came there with to challenge Gunt the last, and maintained his good form, but not good enough. But a well-deserved win for Norman Williamson.
And for Howard Johnson, he's had a quiet season by his standards, but a race here this particular day raises the game tremendously. But for Norman Williamson, his face told the story. You know, he will really be buzzing now, won't he?
Oh, that's right. But your mind is moving towards the big race all the time, and towards the Grand National. Again, we're going back to you saying about the jockeys coming out and riding in races before the Grand National. Almost you want to get going into the Grand National straight away. You won't have had a lot of sleep last night thinking about it, and the sooner you get out into that parade ring and start performing, your nerves seem to go away.
Well, Skew, so far 25 to 1 winner wins the first, 20 to 1 wins the second. Is that an omen for the day? I mean, place spotters, if they've got them, will be laughing at this stage of the day, but those who decided not to play today will not be so happy, obviously. So that's Wee River's jockey Jason Callahan just preceding there Norman Williamson. Norman, who was full, of course, of real emotion when he pulled up. He's had time to settle down now, hasn't he?
That's right. You get a big boost of adrenaline when you pass the winning post, and especially at Aintree. It's, you know, this is the festival. This is one of the festival of racings, and it's a very, very appealing to the jockeys.
So Norman Williamson returns on this course winner, previous course winner, Down the Fell. Winner of 6 of his 26 races now, and a great omen for Norman, who rides Master Oates. But of course these are anxious moments because several of the riders due to take part in the National were fallers there, and it just remains to be seen whether they're fit for the big one. Here now the starting prices.
Another Skinner for the bookmakers. The winner here at 20 to 1. Second, Lord Dorset at 13 to 2. and third Wee River at 14 to 1. And the totes there, look at that tote win there, £36.90 for a pound. Places £5.90, £2.30, £3.70. Dual forecast £92, straight forecast £131.70, and the tricast £1,723.97.
Now, the outsiders are flying in here at Aintree at the moment. What's going to win the big one? Let's get a view from Richard and from Scoo. What do they think?
Well, Des, I think that isn't the pattern for the Martel National. It looks easy to me. Lord Guyleen, the New Zealand bred, will win for Steve Brookshaw and Stan Clark. Sunny Bay the Grey will be second, and the best outsider is undoubtedly John Manners' Killer Shin. I would love to see that one. And the horse that my wife Mandy and I bred, Mugoni Beach, I can see him running on to perhaps be fourth.
Well, for me, Des, I like the look of Antonin. He's really come back to form since he's been moved back to Ireland. Feathered Gale is a horse that's performs very well on this fast ground, so he comes into it. Lord Guyleen, I have to agree with Richard for once, and I think he must have a great chance, jumps well. And as the outsider, I'm going to go for the Martin Pipe-chained Evangelica.
Thank you, gentlemen. Now here's every year's Lady of Aintree, Jenny Pitman, of course. Now, how are you feeling this year?
I'm a bit nervous, Desmond. They've got it all wrong again.
Well, they usually do, don't they? So what do you think?
What do I think? Well, I did some tips and I put Wild Hyde. I thought he'd got a good chance in the race, and I put I can't remember what I've done there. It's all so confusing.
What about your two, though? What about Smith's Band? And is it Narthen? Narthen, is that how you pronounce it? Narthen Lad.
You know, they say Narthen Lad when you come
Narthen Lad. Okay, right. What about these two?
They're in very good order. You know, when people get the flower ready for Chelsea, they want to see it bloom on the day, and I felt real good about my horses this morning. They went out, and Narthen Lad's being his usual wayward self, and so that's a good sign with him.
But Smith's Band hasn't run much. I mean, it pulled up last time out and hadn't run for a bit. Yeah, does that matter?
No, because I took him back to Newbury and I worked him over 2 miles there, and he worked with Ruan and he worked with Mudderhim. And of course, Mudderhim won the Irish National, so that's
a wonderful win for you the other day. You did it again. Yeah, by about a nose, wasn't it?
It wasn't very far, but it was far enough.
Yeah, so you've got them all now. You've won all the home nationals, haven't you?
Yes.
Welsh, Scots.
Yeah, the Welsh 3 times, this one twice, and better not keep on.
No, well,
like
we can brag for you. We can brag for you. But what do you see as the kind of special need to get a horse to run in this race? I mean, what do you look for when you try and find a Grand National horse in the first place?
Oh, I would start very early on with a young horse.
Yeah.
When I go to the sales, I generally buy horses with a bit of size and a bit of substance. Wouldn't buy a little puny one.
No.
And I'm a bit inclined to buy horses with stamina in their pedigrees. Having said all of those things, you know, you've got to have a horse that's got courage. And I look for movement and balance in a horse.
You tell courage by movement and balance?
No, but they do have a special magic. Garrison Savannah's always had a special magic, and you can feel it when you're near him, you know, and you walk into him and you feel very privileged to walk in there.
One of her usual affluent.
What was the best moment here? I mean, you had the 2 wins, but Garrison almost won it, would have done that amazing double had it won.
Yes.
Yeah. With your son on board.
There's a very good reason why that didn't happen, but as I'm writing a book, Desmond, even you're not privy to that.
Oh, you're keeping this one up your sleeve, are you?
Well, you've kept a few things up your sleeve over the years.
Right, okay. Well, now Richard Dunwoody, who rides Smith's Band, took a tumble on that last, but I think we can see he's all right. Look, there he is. So you'll be pleased that he's up and about, good fellow.
I tell you what, he's as hard as iron. He's all right.
Well, he took a tumble here on Thursday and had a few problems, but
Smithy's is about as hard as he is.
The horse, yeah. Okay.
So, you know, fingers crossed. They're in good order, you know, and you can't do any more after that. It's up to the man upstairs. But it doesn't stop you feeling anxious.
No. And you get up for the day again? I mean, you got wonderful hat again. I mean,
I was very lucky with this, actually, because 2 very kind gentlemen came and paid for it just as I was picking it up. So
sort of friends you need.
Yeah, dead right.
That's wonderful.
I wonder if they'd like a trip to Selfridges.
Was there anything about Rolls Royces they like at all? Yeah.
They can take you from the cradle to the grave there without going outside the door. I like that.
Absolutely. Well, best of luck. Hope it's another great day for you and another
Are you coming to my wedding later in the year?
I didn't know you were getting remarried.
Well, Well, the trouble is, you've had such a long time to ask me, and you've avoided the subject. Then I met your charming lady at Sports Personalities, and I never try.
You've gone elsewhere.
Well, absolutely. Trouble is, you see, I never take on a challenge and know I'm not going to win. And as soon as I saw her, I thought we could make it a double.
If you invited me, I'd be delighted to come.
Well, you better make it a double wedding. It's time you married the woman.
That I'll have to think about. and thank you for bringing that close to the public, Jenny. Very much indeed. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks.
As ever. Now, there we are. What sort of day am I having here? Now, what about an outsider? It's a long time since, well, it's not that long since an outsider win, but the best price we've got in recent years is a 40-to-1 shot. What about an outsider today? What about a horse like Kileshin?
Kileshin is trained down on the farm in an environment so far removed from the high-tech stables at nearby Lambourne. Owner-trainer Mad John Manners cuts a very different figure from the normal exercise riders, but it's his horse, and he insists on partnering the stable staff.
And this is a fantastic story, Killy. I mean, to go to Ascot Sales, which I'm a very frequent visitor, and just to walk up to the ring, and this horse was in the ring, and I'd never seen him in life before, and I bought him for 1,200 quid, you know, purely thinking, well, why did I do it? I mean, and we know the story now is, you know, coming to an end, isn't it, in a way, we hope.
John has already tasted Aintrie's success with Kileshin in the Fox Hunters Chase 3 years ago. These huge national fences held no terrors for the horse. As for his owner, he was far less confident.
And when I got there, and I looked at the chair, it sort of frightened the daylights out of me. I promptly went to the bar and got practically pickled before the race. But and then when I did actually watch it with a friend on this closed circuit with 28 runners, and he jumped the bloody first fence right behind the rest. I thought, this is a glorious waste of time, really. And yet, well, we know the story. I mean, he just progressed and went through the hold up and won.
Brown Windsor taking it up from Alimos, Dark Dawn. Here comes Kileshin too. They're racing towards the elbow, and Brown Windsor, who was fourth in the 1990 National, is striding away under Ben Pollock. It's Brown Windsor with Kileshin putting in a big run too. Still over on the far side is Alimos as they come to the line. Kileshin is getting up and is going to win it. And at the line, Kileshin is the winner, and Brown Windsor is second, and third is Alimos.
Today's jockey, Sean Curran, has never ridden at Aintree and is rarely allowed to partner Kileshin in home gallops. John always leads his string on his National Hope and uses the water meadows on his 400-acre farm. Has the horse got the right credentials, though?
From a form expert, it looks pretty poor, his form. In actual fact, the last 3 runs, in good company, he has run, you know, he's run right up to form, carrying top weight. So, I mean, on that score, we've got to be happy. And he is, as I say, I've had him 3 years, and I think he's probably better than he ever has been.
John is a self-confessed horseaholic. He employs schooling practices you'd not see anywhere else, preferring his babies to become streetwise together. He loves being among them, yet finds race days a strain.
It does seem crazy when you own a horse and you think, well, you look at other people and think how lucky they are and what wonderful fun they must be having, but you really, when you're so involved with the animal, I suppose if you're an owner and go to the races, you don't really get so close to the horse as you do when you're actually training him. I ride him myself twice every day. You know, he is sort of, you know, like a partner, you know, so the dread of seeing him run, you know, it's crazy, really.
For the animals, though, it's a policy of going back to nature, giving them freedom whenever possible. The river is his hydrotherapy unit, and the emphasis here is on the horse's happiness.
Everything on this farm, we do it for love. What they love doing, if they want to go out in the field, they go out in the field. You know, it's everything here is to keep them happy. I think the great thing training horses, not that I can talk very much this year because we only had 1 winner so far, but you know, it's just keeping the horses happy. And we shall have a bit of luck in the next few weeks, I'm quite sure.
Kileshin, you are famous, Kileshin. You're on the box. Kileshin. Have you had enough?
Watching the show earlier, I said that today we would meet a famous Hollywood star who had a connection with the Grand National. And ladies and gentlemen, here he is, Mr. Gregory Peck. It's great to see you here.
You too.
Now, you had two runners in the National. Back in '63, you had a runner.
We had an Irish bred, and he was known as Greg's Grey, the housewife's choice. His name was Owen Sedge, trained by Tom Morahan, ridden by Pat Taft.
All right,
yes.
Famous man, Pat Taft. And then you had different class, which ran in '67. Now, they got involved the year that Foynaven won, didn't it, that year?
Yes, unfortunately, different class went down in a pileup, and Foynaven, I think, found his way around the outside.
Correct.
And ran home with it. Again in '68 we had a different class with the great trainer Peter Cazalet. We thought that was the year.
We have a picture here, and this was the year that, well, you weren't so very far away from winning it because you finished third, I think.
We did.
Yeah.
And I think it may have been a photo for second.
Yes, I think it was. It was very close. Red Alligator won the race that year, way up front there. And
there we go, right together over the line.
How did you get involved in the Grand National in the first place?
You know, I got interested because of an old-time Hollywood director, Raoul Walsh, who introduced me to jumping in 1950 when we were making a film called Captain Hornblower.
Oh, right.
In London. And we saw Lord Mildmay, who was a gallant gentleman, amateur rider, as you know very well. And I began to follow the jumping and the steeplechasing, so I've been interested ever since.
Have you? And have you kept an eye on the Grand National down all the years ever since?
Oh, I watch it in the sports pages. I haven't been here for quite a few years, but it's always in my heart. It's still a dream.
Are you enjoying the atmosphere today?
Well, I think it's the greatest sporting event in the world, bar none. Most exciting event that there is in sport.
Wonderful. And tell me, are you having a bet today? Have you picked one that you might...
Yeah, well, I rather favor Smith's Band.
Yes. With
a bit on an Irish-bred Antonine.
Oh, right,
yeah.
okay.
And a couple of others, but
you're going to have a few dollars, I suppose, on it. But tell me, one question may I ask you for the film fans who are watching. What was your favorite part? What was the part? You won an Oscar, of course, didn't you?
Well, I did win an Oscar for a picture called To Kill a Mockingbird.
Famous movie.
But there were one or two others, Roman Holiday and The Guns of Navarone, were a couple that I liked.
Privileged to meet you. Thank you for being with us. Gregory Peck, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Right, so let's take a look at another of the possible chances here today of Lord Gillane and first General Wolfe.
If you're looking for a national winner, a good place to start is the stables of Tim Foster. He's the only living Englishman to have trained 3. General Wolfe carries the stable's hopes today. Last year he was second in the Scottish Grand National. This season his return was delayed by a sore throat. But when he did race at Haydock, he's on the far side, he showed plenty of courage to beat the well-regarded McGregor III. In a later race he ran badly at Chepstow. Otherwise he'd be one of the favourites today. But his work at the lovely 5,500-acre Downton Hall estate near Ludlow in Shropshire suggests that he's right at the top of his form. A lion in Wolfe's clothing.
Lord Gillane, a doughty stayer bred in New Zealand, has emerged as a live Grand National candidate this season with a series of impressive performances in the colours of his enthusiastic owner Stan Clark. His trainer Steve Brookshaw is the nephew of the fearless former champion jockey Tim Brookshaw, who was so unlucky on Wineborough in the 1959 Grand National.
But at the moment of dire need, Oxo holds off the challenge, winner of the National by a length and a half from Winburn. And as the winner was led in, there was much praise for Mike Scudamore and also for Weinberg's jockey, Tim Brookshaw, who ended the race with a broken stirrup leather.
It was Tim Brookshaw who trained Stan Clark's first winner 35 years ago. Now, Steve Brookshaw is the man with the mission to win the Grand National with Lord Gillane at the first attempt. His form is rock solid. Moo to him. The horse he beat by 8 lengths in February won the Irish Grand National only on Monday.
Well, I'm afraid some bad news for David Bridgewater. You remember came second on Encore and Pur in the race last year due to ride Bishop's Hall in the big race this year. I'm afraid he's fractured his arm and, of course, won't take that ride, so he'll be replaced for the big race this afternoon. Mark Richards, a just heard will take that ride. That's bad luck. G. Armitage still with us. That's bad luck on the man.
Terrible. I feel so sorry for Bridgie. He's such a good jockey and he's such a trier. And he's having such a bad run lately, and I really wish him well.
Do you know, he was my Sportsman of the Year last year. When they had that stewards' inquiry, he was very sporting about it. And
he's a great chap, a lovely, lovely man, and a very good jockey.
We wish him well. Now, you know this General Wolf we've just been talking about, this horse in particular, don't you? Tell us a bit about it.
It would be a real fairy tale for this horse to win. I mean, particularly with Lorcan Wire. His last visit to Aintree, he smashed his face in so badly. He spent hours and hours under surgery, having it rebuilt again. And he came back from that injury miraculously. People didn't think he was going to get through it, but he did. And he was then off with an ankle injury.
Right, we're seeing him there, I think.
And following that, he had a bad bout of concussion. He really deserves it, and you know everyone would be delighted to see this horse win for Lorcan today.
Anything else that catches your eye in the race?
Yeah, there's a little horse I like very much, who certainly would be Mrs. P's pick if she went to the sales. He's called Antonin. He's very scrawny, ugly, and he's not a very good mover. But he has guts and he's tough and he's got ability. Last year he finished 8th when he wasn't having a very good season, and he was running faster than anything towards the end of the race. He's come down in the weights this year. He's running really, really well. He's moved a yard. The yard's moved to Ireland, and I think he's a really good proposition.
That's Sue Bramall's horse, isn't it?
Sue Bramall's.
Right, okay. Well, there's plenty to choose from, 38 runners.
Certainly is.
Now let's meet this young man. You come in here, this chap. This is Joe Tizard, age 17, who's got his first ride, of course, in the Grand National this afternoon. How do you feel about it? You're riding straight talk, aren't you, for Paul Nicholls?
Very much looking forward to it.
Are you?
Yeah, I was a bit nervous to start off with, but now I've had a walk round and had a look at the course. I can't wait to get out there.
You went out and walked round, did you?
Yeah, we walked.
Had a look at those fences. What did you think?
Oh, lovely fences, aren't they? Nice and big.
They're very inviting fences to jump.
Yeah.
Just watch the first fence. Don't want to be over too quick.
No, that's right.
Now, how have you become involved in this race? I mean, you come from sort of a farming family, don't you, and racing stock?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we've always had pointers, and I started pointing last year, and then I rode in a couple of races under rules and hunter chases. Paul Nicholls noticed me, and he said, "Would I like to be his amateur?" And it's gone from there, really.
Yeah. You've left school, I take it, have you?
Yeah, left school last summer.
Right, okay. So you're going to be a pro jockey?
Well, I'll see how next season goes. Stay as amateur for next season, and if it all goes well, then maybe I will.
You're quite tall, aren't you? He'll be spending his life. He'll spend his life in a sauna, eh? That's the only danger.
Yeah, weight obviously will be a problem one day, but hopefully I can keep it under control for as long as possible.
Wonderful. And what have the other jockeys been saying to you about the race in there? Any guidance or advice or?
Well, yeah, they're just still saying look after yourself, really. I mean, once you're out there, it's one for one, you know, and just look after yourself and make sure you stay in one piece.
Paul Nicholls trains, doesn't he? What sort of advice has he given you? Has he given you some instructions?
Yeah, he said sit middle to outer, so you've got plenty of daylight at your fences, yes, and you don't get too much interruption that way, and enjoy it, really.
Absolutely. Well, we wish you the very best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Perhaps you'll have a story to tell us later.
Yeah, hopefully.
Thank you, Joe. Joe Tizard, who rides in the National at 17 years of age today, and G. Armitage with us again, of course. Right, our next race is due up, so runners and riders once again from Peter O'Sullivan.
Number 1 is Bimsey, written by Mick Fitzgerald. 2, Large Action, Jamie Osborne. 3, Make a Stand, Chris Maud. 4, Pridwell, Richard Dunwoody. 5 for Ireland, Space Trucker, John Short, I should say. 6 for Ireland, last year's winner, Euro Bandy, written by Charlie Swan. 7, The Versatile Double Symphony, written by Graham Bradley. Here's how they bet.
And the uneasy favourite here, Make a Stand, is now 6-4 from 5-4. Large Action is 3-1, having opened at 5-2. Then they go 5-1 Space Trucker, 6-1 Urubandi. Pridwell is 12 from 11. Bimsey 16-1, and the outsider Double Symphony 33-1.
Yeah. There is the magnificent Make a Stand, the champion hurdle winner. As Rocky pointed out, he's drifting a little bit in the betting, but I think it's because of the question mark over him. Will he stay this extra distance today? He's been superb over 2 mile, but it's 2 mile per 4 furlong today, and his style of racing would suggest that he wouldn't get the trip because he's very, very sharp. magnificent jumper of a hurdle. I don't think we've seen a quicker and more accurate jumper of a hurdle for a long time. But Martin Pipe wouldn't be running him if he didn't think he got the extra 4 furlong.
In the colours of Peter Deal, who owned this horse on the flat. The horse was claimed by Martin Pipe, and Peter bought back into him. So well done for staying loyal. But as you say, fantastic jumper. But remember, Skew, this is an easy 2.5.
Yes, but I repeat myself from the 2 days before, all the jockeys are aware of that, and for that they usually go pretty quick. They'll be aware not to let this horse off too quick. Jamie Osborne, especially on large action, will be right up there chasing him, and as I say, they'll go very, very quick, and that's what they will try and test his stamina to the hilt.
Well, there are plenty of horses who do stay, and here is one, Large Action. Most amazing how he just pulled up. It was inexplicable, wasn't it, after a couple of hurdles in the Champions?
He just knocked himself, I think, didn't he? I mean, it's like you're just running along, stepping on a stone or something. He might have just kicked a joint, and for that reason he pulled up, like Howard Johnson's horse that was second in the last race, or the first race we saw. We've got to direct route. We could ignore that pulled up, and if you do, you've got 5 wins in a row. He's been second in 2 champion hurdles, and he will love this trip.
Yes, he's on the far side of Pridwell, but we can pick up on one with a probably more obvious chance than Pridwell, which is Space Trucker. Now, this horse, of course, has both beaten and been beaten by Make a Stand, Skew.
Yes, he beat Make a Stand at Cheltenham in a champion hurdle trial. Why Make a Stand didn't get home that day, nobody knows, but they're not machines. He's got excellent form in handicaps and in condition races, this horse. Been a great credit to his trainer, Jessica Harrington, and he's destined to run a big race this afternoon.
And Make a Stand is now 7-4, having opened at 5-4 here on the course. Large Action 11-4 from 3-1. Then they go 5-1 Space Trucker. Urabant is 13-2 from 6. 12 Pridwell, 16-1 Bimsey, and 33-1 Double Symphony.
Huge crowd here, as you would expect for this incredible race. A few spots spare down there, but all the boxes and all the hospitality units are overflowing today. Great day for British steeplechasing. Well, Urabandi here, running in a French ring bit, they're not widely used here, is a horse that just hasn't quite trained on this year. He looked as if he was the one horse everybody would want after last season's Skew.
Yeah, it's very difficult for trainers, I think. I mean, Aidan O'Brien, I talk about him in the same breath as Martin Pipe. He's a quite brilliant trainer. But I just wonder if he's fallen between the two stools with this horse, in the fact that he won the Sun Alliance Novice Hurdle last year, came here and won this race, magnificent performance. You're then trying to turn what looks a chasing type of horse into a champion hurdler. Then you get beaten at Newbury. You're not quite good enough for the champion hurdle. You try and make him settle over hurdles to go 3 miles. It doesn't work. I think he's a horse with an outstanding future if he'll go forward for Charlie Swanee. He's at any rate 13-2 from 6-1, and he'll make a great chaser.
Well, Double Symphony, this is the mare in the race. She's been chasing and hurdling, mix and match, although Cheltenham wasn't her ideal place, was it? Charlie Books trades. 25-1 from 33s, Graham Bradley on board. Rides Low Stragoni in the big one, but is still not very happy about being jocked off Sunny Bay.
No, interesting. This, with Large Action, could be one who could take on Make a Stand early. Nothing has taken on Make a Stand so far in his hurdles, and the jockeys will be aware. There's this horse I was looking for is Bimsey there, because this horse has got decent form, Richard. He won round here last year, and another one that's okay, he's been a little bit disappointing this season, but Reg Akers is another trainer that I have the utmost respect for. His horse is always very, very fit, and he could again be looking to take on Make a Stand early.
Yeah, he's 16-1 at the moment. Mick Fitzgerald on board, and this Bimsey, of course, is proven over the trip and the course and the ground, so a lot of pluses there in his favour.
Lovely looking horse, isn't he? Looks very, very well. Confident Mick Fitzgerald, speaking to him about Go Ballistic. He won the Grand National on Rough Quest last year. He's very confident of how he's going to ride Go Ballistic.
Well, are we right to write off Pridwell? He was third in the champion hurdle, not this March, but a year before. He's been a funny old monkey. He's owned by David Burstock. Chris Fleet, Malcolm Jones, great supporters of the game, but he does have his own ideas, Skiff.
Yes, and like you, Richard, the older you get, the more you have these ideas come into your head, and I think you know, he's beginning to hesitate too often at start now. He's got the right man on board today in Richard Dunwoody to persuade him otherwise, but I would be very doubtful of putting my money on this character.
Make a Stand is 7-4, having opened at 5-4 on the course. Large Action 11-4 from 3, 5-1 Space Trucker, 13-2 Eurobandy, and it's 12-1 now, bar those 4.
Looks like the punters have kept their money in their pocket. I don't think you can read too much into this. It is just the trip with Make a Stand. Very tight course here. The course that they call the Mile May course. It's fast and furious, and they will not hang around. But just do watch the favourite, the way he jumps. I've never seen a hurdler jump quite as well. He's long and low with tremendous scope before and after the hurdle.
You see the professionalism of the Pipe team. That's David Pipe, the big tall boy with his hands in his pockets, looking at the girths or whatever, just checking everything's right, nothing's left per chance in the Pipe stable. Just going back to whether this horse gets a trip, Chris Maud, I was speaking to him earlier in the week, I said, we'll Make a Stand stay. He said, of course he'll stay. So,
well, jockeys would have to think that. They wouldn't admit it if they thought he wouldn't. But
tell me the truth.
But Make a Stand, they're being led in by David Pipe. It'll soon be away. Peter, over to you.
And they're away to a first time up. And it's Make a Stand going on from Bimsey and Eurobandy as they come to the first of the 12 flights this time. All safely over the first with Space Trucker the back marker. And Make a Stand the leader from Bimsey as they come to the second. Make a Stand. Lightning quick at that. From Bimsey. Beginning the left-hand swing, Double Symphony and Eurobandy come next, followed by Pridwell, and then Space Trucker and Large Action. Make a Stand, the champion hurdler, from Bimsey and Eurobandy and Double Symphony and Pridwell, and Space Trucker and Large Action, as they swing for home on this first circuit. Quite a long run to the next flight. And Make a Stand, the leader from Bimsey and Eurobandy and Double Symphony. Then Pridwell, Sheepskin Noseband. Behind him is Space Trucker and Large Action. Going a very good clip in this 2.5 mile Martel Aintree hurdle. Make a Stand from Bimsey as they race towards the 4th. Eurobandy is 3rd and 4 is Pridwell on the inside. Come Double Symphony and Space Trucker and Large Action being held up by Jamie Osborne in rear as they come down to flight number 5. Make a Stand. Lightning quick at it again from Bimsey. Then Eurobandy and Pridwell, Space Trucker, Double Symphony and Large Action. So coming down past the winning post with a complete circuit ahead of them. Make a Stand. From Bimsey, a little gap then to Eurobandy, then Pridwell, Space Trucker, Large Action and Double Symphony. Over the far side, and this lightning quick champion hurdler, Make a Stand, with Bimsey keeping tabs on him quite closely. Then Eurobandy, then Pridwell on the inside of Space Trucker, who's been making a bit of progress. Then Large Action, and finally Double Symphony, who's finding this pace a bit too hot. Make a Stand. Zips over the 6th from Bimsey's Space Trucker. On the outside, Eurobandy. On the inner is Pridwell. Then Large Action. Really stretching him now, Chris Maud, on this Make a Stand. Just didn't meet that all that perfect. Just lost a little bit of impetus at it there. Bimsey gets a little bit closer once again. That's Pridwell on the inside. Space Trucker and Eurobandy matching strides just behind. And once again, rather uncharacteristic. He's been overtaken. Large action has been pulled up. The enigmatic Pridwell has come there very strongly on the inside, but it's Make a Stand just back in the lead now from Bimsey. Then Pridwell and Space Trucker, and then Eurobandy, as they swing now towards the home straight in this Martel Aintree hurdle. And it's Bimsey who's come to take it up now off Make a Stand. Poised just in behind him, a Space Trucker and Pridwell, and then Eurobandy, who won this last year and who's still not out of it by any means, Charlie Swan. They're racing towards the third last now, and it's Bimsey the leader from Pridwell and Space Trucker as the champion hurdler fades right out of the picture. Bimsey cleared that about 3 ahead of Space Trucker and then Pridwell. They're coming down towards the second last now, and as they do so, it's Bimsey clear of Space Trucker and Pridwell. Bimsey's over. Eurobandy is going to be pulled up by the look of it. It's absolutely legless. They're racing up now towards the final flight in the Martel Aintree hurdle, and it's Bimsey clear of Pridwell. Bimsey comes to it, jumps it 3 lengths clear of Pridwell. Pridwell's not done with. He's having a right crack at this leader, but it's Bimsey from Pridwell as they race into the closing stages. Bimsey being tackled all the time by Pridwell, who's putting in a storming run, but it's Bimsey who's going to hold him as they come to the line. Bimsey wins the Martel Aintree hurdle. Second is Pridwell, third is Make a Stand, and fourth is Space Trucker, but there was a long way between second and third, and so the result of the 1997 Martel Aintree hurdle first, number 1, Bimsey, owned by Mr. Aidan J. Rahn, trained by Reg Akerst and written by Mick Fitzgerald, who rides Go Ballistic in the big one. Second was number 4, Pridwell, owned by the Jones, Burstock and Fleet Partnership, trained by Martin Pipe and written by Richard Dunwoody, who of course rides Smith's Band in the big one. And third was number 3, Make a Stand, owned by Mr. Peter Deal, trained by Martin Pipe and written by Chris Maud, who'll be on Dexter Dove in the next. That's the result.
Yeah, so he never really got away from this field today, Make a Stand, did he? He jumped fairly well, except for there he just left his hind legs behind, but the writing was on the wall a long way out, in my opinion. You know, in his other races he's got well away from his field, but the jockeys were all aware of it, and especially Mick Fitzgerald and Bimsey, who he said who looked magnificent down at post, trained by Reg Akerst, and a great ride by Mick Fitzgerald. Really, I mean, he needs to go and jump this really well, gets over it really quick and flat. Pridwell, and a great ride from Richard Dunwoody, but a very tired Space Trucker jumping there. But I think halfway up the running, the Bimsey hits the rail and stops his momentum and just allows Richard Dunwoody and Pridwell to get there.
He just did it there, Skew, twice, yeah. Because Mick had got his head down, hadn't he, and was going for the line, giving it all, because he could feel and hear Woody coming. And it's a very long running up this track here, and as I said, we keep talking about, you know, how fast the track is, but the hurdles come very quick at you in the straight, and you see it brings you to the front sooner than you want to be all the time, and you've got a long way to hang on up that straight. And again, a jubilant jockey, Mick Fitzgerald, giving his horse a welcome and thank you pat. And a 14-to-1 winner. The price is 25-to-1, 20, 14-to-1. This cannot continue through the day, I don't think. Mick Fitzgerald, of course, rides Go Ballistic in the next, the big one, the Martel National. And won't it teach us, Skew, not to write off these old horses? Pridwell's run a blind.
That's right, and the other thing with this horse is that he loves this track. He's come to this course twice now and put up great performances.
So there we have it, Bimsey the winner. So Bimsey from Reg Aker's yard, and Reg, who is very good both flat and jumping, Skew. He can produce winners both codes with equal frequency, can't he?
Yes, I think, I mean, I said down at start, his horses are always very fit. It was always a great privilege to ride for Reg, because you knew his horses would gallop all the way to the line. Given a real confident ride there by Mick Fitzgerald, who, as you say, rides Go Ballistic in the Grand National. All the minds now will be thinking of the Grand National.
Yes, well, let's have the SPs of the first 3. If you had a bet in the last, as follows.
The
starting prices for the Martell Aintree hurdle. First, Bimsey at 14 to 1. Second, number 4, Pridwell, 12 to 1. And third, Make a Stand, the 7 to 4 favourite. And the totes win £15.40, places £4, £2.70, and the dual forecast £48.40.
Well, we're getting close now. Time to concentrate on the 1997 Martell Grand National. Fences have famous names, of course, Beeches and the Foynhaven fence, the Canal Turn and Valentine's. The chair and the water jump. They negotiate those just once and then off they go round again. How many of them will be left for the second circuit? The going for today's race is good. And there's that long finish which they have to master. Now let's have a final check on the betting. Ray O'Sullivan doing his final homework for the National in the Jockeys room. And let's now join Richard Pitman and Peter Scudamore for some of the pre-national scenes.
This stage skew, all the boys want to do is actually get on with it now, don't they?
That's right, a lot of them will have weighed out and be just having a sip of tea or something.
Yes, but the runners have been in this parade ring for a while, and we've been looking at them. Most of them are very relaxed, aren't they?
They are all looking very, very well. There is one of the two greys walking around together, Sunny Bay and Dexter Dove, the second one. Both got excellent chances. Both good jumpers of their fences, touchwood. Dexter Dove, the one walking there, is a particularly lazy type of horse. And Chris Maud, who's a very, very tall young man, has had to be dieting all week to get down to riding.
Yes, Avro Anson, well, he likes this ground, jumping. He jumps nicely on park courses. This is new ground for him.
That's right, very high-class hurdler. He looks very well, doesn't he? Carrying a little bit of condition, but you would have to say he looks absolutely spot on.
Owned by Cornwall bookmaker Brian Skirton, and also his trainer, Maurice Camacho, has a quarter, has one leg in the horse. Just looking at them beforehand, he's 10-1 at the moment. Peter Niven, real dour Scottish jockey, isn't he?
Oh, dour, I wouldn't describe him as dour. He's hard-working.
Yeah, but dour keeps working, that's what I mean. You never gives up.
I don't understand the meaning of dour.
Right, okay. Master Oates, now what about this horse? Can he come back, the former Gold Cup winner?
I think he can do. If you have a look, last season he ran a very bad race at Chepstow, and then he came out and ran a cracker at Sandown when the King George was there. Any of that form would be good enough. He's had 2 runs in the National, he's fallen, and he's finished 7th.
Yes, he's got 11-10. Well, these are the horses, but what about the other half of the equation? Well, Norman Williamson, he's already tasted success today. That will have just put the edge on him. Norman, who knows his way around here, of course.
Yes, I mean, like any big sporting occasion now, the boys are really trying to concentrate, get their minds up together. Norman has having a cup of tea there, but he won't. He's got plenty of weight. He won't. It won't have had to be dehydrating himself.
But is this a good thing? You know, do they need to rehydrate?
You do. I'm sure you're going to need all the energy you can get. Your mouth's very, very dry through nerves, etc. And so, yes, you just want something to get you through the race. There's Lord Garline, Tony Dobbin. I think this horse will run a great race, Richard.
Yep, New Zealand bred like Seagram. You know, they breed them hardy out there, don't they?
And also, it's interesting that when he was bought by Stan Clark, he saw a video of him jumping.
Yeah, and the man that will be riding him, of course, this is Tony Dobbin. He had his second ride today because he unseated his ride. His first one, he'd be looking to get further than the third fence today. Well, we're just seeing 20 deep around the paddock here. People love to see the horses in the flesh before they decide to actually put their final bets on skill.
Yes, and that's Don't Light Up, wandering around. Venetia Williams' horse. She's a new trainer, trains in Hereford and doing very well.
Yeah, well, we do have a great history of all sorts of things being thrown up in this race. There are fairy tales, and Sunny Bay would be one. Now, this horse is Dapple's showing, it's spring, and this brings them to their best. So, although there's an awful lot of people around the ring, they wouldn't be aware of what's going on elsewhere on the racecourse, and I do believe that other things are happening now. In fact, they are evacuating the county stand. There's been some sort of alert, and this will just delay proceedings for a little while. You can see the security people just asking everyone to vacate, and in due course we will know exactly what the problem is here. But everyone being put onto the course, the plastic rails have been lowered there to get people out of the way. This is just the sort of intrusion that sporting events like this do not need.
Yeah, it's very, very sad to see, and horrible for the horses, and you know, it gets the horses all wound up and makes it more dangerous for them, doesn't it? The whole waiting. Let's just hope it's not anything serious and that it's just a hoax or something.
I'm sure it is, but whether it is or it isn't, it's a delay that we could certainly do without, because the players, both human and equine, have been ready for this for some time now, and to psych yourself back up after you know, you've been lowered is a very hard thing to do. It looks as if the whole of the grandstands are being evacuated now, the main stand as well. They are interconnected, of course, so all I can say is that it's a very, very sad day for, not for sport, because it isn't sporting people who do this sort of thing. Well, the crowd's now absolutely pouring out over the course itself. That's the safest place, and in fact the whole course now, we hear, is being evacuated. So what happens from now, I just do not know. The runners are still here in the paddock, but they are incidental to the plot at this moment. They wouldn't have a clue what's going on. We've got mounted policemen in the paddock here behind the grandstands. They're
there they are,
ushering people away again. And in fact, we can hear, Skew, they are asking everyone to vacate.
Yeah. Very sad sight, isn't it? It's particularly, you know, this Aintree has seen the jockeys have been evacuated out of the weighing room as well. Yes, everybody's leaving there. Yes,
Andy Thornton going out.
There's the
Jason Titley, of course, one on Royal Athlete.
Mark Dwyer, who's carrying an injury.
Yes, Paul Holly after him, and so everyone is being asked to leave. What a sad, sad sight on what is one of the greatest days that we can imagine in any sport whatsoever.
You've got to feel especially sorry for the horses as well. All this noise and delay will just wind them up more, won't it, Richard?
Of course, everybody's safety is paramount, but you can bet 10 to 1 on that this is a hoax just to disrupt everything here on what is a great... Even right down on the bank that leads down past the first 5 fences, then they're evacuating that. The jockeys who've been herded out have been asked to go to the front of the Martel stand. Obviously, they need to be kept together, because once you lose 38 jockeys, Skew, it might be a difficulty getting them back.
That's right. The communication, if you've got officials and jockeys wandering all over the place, is going to be awful, isn't it?
And after the void race a few years ago, this is exactly what we don't need. So everybody getting the same orders here on the course. But, of course, there isn't enough place for everyone to get out all at the same time.
Yes, there are the horses. They're remarkably calm, actually, aren't they? But they're going to be getting more and more agitated. There's some the jockeys' wives and girlfriends there. Dolly Maud just stood there having a chat.
Well, the crowds will be as perplexed as everyone else. Anyway, we, in our position, are totally helpless to do anything about this. The runners waiting there in the...
Turning Tricks, David Nicholson's runner. There's the...
Yes. Even the catering staff, and some of them very upset there, have been asked to leave their positions. This could not have been a worse event.
Let's just hope that it's good to see all the crowds moving without too much panic and moving slowly, and let's just hope that nobody gets hurt.
And what a desolate sight that is from us here. We're true sportsmen. Whoever did this, well, just hope we don't meet him on the way out.
Well, this is a ghastly situation all around. Nigel Payne is here from Aintree. What has actually happened as far as you're concerned?
Well, the police have advised us that there have been 2 coded bomb warnings received, and they felt the only possible alternative was to evacuate the course completely, and we will await further information from them.
And they're taking this very seriously. These were proper...
Well, we have been advised that it is necessary, in their view, to evacuate the racecourse, and they will keep us informed as much as possible as to what's going on.
But of course the racecourse has not been evacuated, has it? I mean, people are trying to get back on the course up there now, for example. What should we be doing? Should we be all getting out of the place completely?
Yes, we have emergency procedures, and those are being put out over the public address now. But it is necessary. We don't want people to panic, but obviously it is necessary for people to evacuate to the areas that have been allocated by the safety officers.
What does this mean for the day, do you think?
Well, it's very difficult to say, Des, at the moment. We'll just have to wait to see what news the police have for us.
And the horses, the national runners and everything were over there parading. I mean, they'll have to be taken away, obviously, and taken out of sight. And
that's right, yes. And I mean, I think, you know, obviously we'll have to sort of gather together resources and see exactly what has to be done.
Yeah.
But as soon as we've got any more news, we'll obviously be back to you.
Well, people's safety is the most important part of it all, obviously.
Absolutely.
But that's where we've got pictures here of where the race should be starting. And clearly, it would seem to me, I mean, it might be a very early judgment, but it looks bad for the race actually taking place at the moment.
Well, it is early judgment, but I do think that, you know, as you can see, the evacuation is now taking place. The stands are being cleared quite quickly. I mean, there's probably 60,000 plus people here. But this is the advice that the police have given us, and this is obviously the advice we must follow.
Yeah. This is an awful business, isn't it?
It certainly is.
Yeah.
As you can see, the crowds are moving onto the course there, into the areas that have been allocated safe.
And of course, an additional problem is we have a royal visitor here today. The Princess Royal is present, of course.
Well, absolutely. That is another issue as well. But at the moment,
well, I think we're being told to evacuate this particular position in a moment or two.
I don't really know what more we can say at this stage. It's a very sad sight.
Right. Nigel Payne, thank you very much. Let's just have a word with one of the jockeys here. Carl Llewellyn is with me now. Carl, from the jockey's point of view and racing's point of view, obviously this is a disastrous situation, but what does it mean as far as you're concerned?
Well, it's just sad, isn't it? Very silly. Whether it's a hoax or not, I mean, it's totally silly and unnecessary.
Yeah.
It's a great race and a great day's racing, and people spoiling it. It's sick, really.
It's a day for enjoyment. It's a national day of enjoyment, normally.
Yeah.
It's
fantastic race.
It is quite sick. The horses now, as we see, are being led back into their boxes, one presumes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of people to clear, isn't it? To move them all, it's going to take a long time to get them all.
Yes. Now, we're being told by the police we've actually got to move out of this situation, so...
I'll go with that then.
You'll have to go with that, Carl, and I've got to go as well. So I can hand over for the moment to Jim McGrath.
Well, thanks, Des.
It's okay.
Unfortunately, a very sorry sight here. I'm actually out at Beaches at the moment, and the canal turn where a very big crowd have been assembling at the grandstand on the right. Assembling at the grandstand on the right, which has been evacuated. That's the county stand, and here's where we are out of the commentary box, out at the canal turn, and those people are leaving the outside. I'm actually inside. This is the commentary position. You can see now we're actually right adjacent to the Foynhaven fence, which is number 7 on the national course. And to my left, as I look now, is the canal turn. Jerry Scott, who last year dispatched the field. Simon Morant is the starter this year, but he's looking a very worried and concerned man, as you can imagine. Nobody really knowing what is going to happen, but a delay to the start of the Martel Grand National. And a picture that speaks for itself. A deserted weighing room. A room that is normally bustling, bristling with excitement and anticipation before a race, the showpiece of the National Hunt season. But deserted stands, a deserted weighing room, and a crowd here at Aintree that just don't know what is happening at the moment. But you have to say that this crowd have been so orderly and calm and are now quietly leaving the area surrounding the county stand and going towards the inside of the Mildmay course. And here are the Grand National runners, Celtic Abbey, Evangelica, one of the outsiders. There's Magoni Beach, another Martin Pipe trained runner. And those horses are actually heading away from the stabling area and out towards the car parks, it appears, where the horse boxes are assembled. Chaotic scenes here, a crowd of approximately 60,000 expected here at Aintree. And now the horses are making their way over towards the scanner, BBC scanner at the back of the entertainment areas. This is where we normally see the horses, the 38 of them expected today to be lining up for the Grand National. That's where we would have expected them to be walking before this race. But the crowd of more than 60,000 here, just making their way out onto the course. Peter O'Sullivan, my colleague, of course, was preparing for his 50th Grand National broadcast, and he too has been ushered out of the weighing room and out of the county stand. There are the horses making their way away from the course and also away from the grandstand area. The Grand National runners, 38 of them, making their way now as far as possible away from the grandstand area. But of course an unsettling effect on them because they've been tuned to the minute. They've come here to Aintree to run the races of their lives, and this now of course has all been upset. Security forces on full alert here. The Malling Road gate is closed. The stable area, we look through there, but the police and security have done an excellent job here in ushering the crowd away from the stands. Now that's a view of the stands at the turn out of the straight on the Mildmay course, and behind that you can see the BBC scanner among those cars that are on the car park. And the announcement that led to this huge crowd at Aintree evacuating the stands. If you've just joined us, a security alert here at Aintree. All stands and enclosures have been evacuated, and all members of the public and the members' enclosures to be ushered towards the center of the course, away from those enclosures. This is the canal turn. This was the scene of great frivolity before, the fun fair on the outside. Many members of the public engaged there and enjoying themselves with the fun fair. It's a real party atmosphere out here, but not now. This has destroyed the party entirely. Now those outside the race course on the canal turn, but that's actually outside the course. They're still perched up on the banks on the far side of the canal. Got a great feeling of disappointment, an empty feeling here at Aintree. People who have come here to see the greatest steeplechase in the world are now in the center of the course, many of them, and wondering just what is going to happen next. The paddock, there it is. You'd think it was a cold Monday 2 weeks ago, completely deserted, and the 38 runners have been evacuated from the enclosure. There's the area outside the unsaddling enclosure. That's normally Des Lynham's position there. He and Peter O'Sullivan have been asked to vacate the stands. There's Peter. John Demorable from the Daily Express there as well. And here we are out in the country as the crowd have been evacuated, as you can see. Deserted and disappointing scenes here at Aintree. And John Hanmer, who's perched high in a position in the centre of the course, is telling us to look at fence number 2, which you can see there in the foreground. And as we're looking from Beaches, that's as we look up the course from Beaches, Beaches being the 6th fence. And we can see the crowd who have completely covered the course between fences 3 and 4. There's the chair, the most famous, or one of the most famous fences on this most demanding of steeplechase courses. Often the place where people like to go and have their pictures taken beforehand. Such a formidable obstacle. There are the stables at the back of the course, and the crowd on the inside. Police wagons now making their way towards the county stand area, the emergency vehicles, hundreds of coaches on what is normally one of the most enjoyable racing days of the entire National Hunt season. Security is always high here at Aintree, has been in the last number of years. In fact, getting out towards the canal turn to the commentary position is often a task in itself. Have to get past quite a few security men. You have to have the correct armbands and the correct badges. Very tight security. But a security alert here at Aintree has caused mayhem. Crowd still streaming from the county stand area. Police helicopter now in the centre of the course. A total of 500 police in attendance here today, plus an enormous private security staff. There can be no accusations that Aintree is not well prepared. Robert Thornton, who is looking forward to a ride here in the National. What a week he's had. Riding in great form at the moment. He's found an admirer already.
Mom, I'm okay. I'm safe.
Crowd still walking away from the stands. Still waiting for an announcement, of course, on the course, but those who would normally be making that announcement, of course, have had to vacate the weighing room as well. Tom Tracy, the rider of back bar, there with his back to us. Now the public out here at the canal turn have been reminded to get as far away as possible from that canal road area, canal turn. In fact, all stands have been told to do that as well. Police asking for cooperation from the public, which I must say has been total so far. You would never have seen such a big and orderly crowd at an event such as this in these circumstances. The public are making their way from the canal turn up the road leading away from the canal turn. The security was stepped up here in March when a 24-hour alert was seen here at Aintree and was adopted in preparation for this big event. But disappointing scenes, a desolate stand. A police helicopter ensuring that all members of the public are away from the stands, as this security alert has caused chaos at Aintree and the delay to the start of the Martel Grand National, which was due to be run at 3:45. Announcements are continuing here to the public to get as far away from the stands and the enclosures as possible, and they're making their way into the center of the course to the huge car parks there that we see there in the background. Everything calm here at the moment as the security alert has delayed proceedings here at Aintree, which started on a high note for bookmakers. Families as disappointed as everyone else here as the crowds continue to leave the stands and to make their way out into the country following this security alert.
Thank you, Jim. Well, they're grim times here, I'm afraid, this afternoon on Grand National Day. We've now been relegated to the car park, away from the main areas where we were, like everybody else. And this is where the jockeys park and the trainers park and all the rest of it. I have with me two of the jockeys who were all ready to race in the big event, Jamie Osborne and Richard Dunwoody. Where were you at the time when all this?
We were just about to put our hats on in the weighing room. We were a couple of minutes to being called out, so we were ready to roll.
Disappointing, terrible mess.
Unbelievable. I mean, it makes the fiasco of 3 years ago pale into insignificance, doesn't it?
Absolutely right. Richard, what happened to you? Where were you?
Desmond, just the same, came in from the last race. I was just about to, or had weighed out, given my saddle out, gone back in, just about to get tied up, and we were told to vacate the weighing room. That we were outside the weighing room, then we were told to move up here, so that's a disaster.
Yeah. Obviously, everybody's safety is a priority here. So, I mean, these things have to happen when we get these awful security codes and
you know, as long as everyone's safe at the end of the day, that is the main thing.
From a pure racing point of view at the moment, can you imagine this race? Can you imagine things getting back into an orderly enough fashion to get the horses ready and you guys ready for this race to continue this afternoon or go on?
Well, it's going to take a long time to get everybody back into the enclosures, isn't it? And after everything's been searched, I mean, yeah, I mean, we've got enough daylight left as long as everything can be organised, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you feel about that, Richard?
Yes, obviously, you know, as long as there's daylight, then it's not very easy for some of the horses. Might be a bit wound up. They've been tacked up to actually come back out again. But no, I think as long as we've got daylight, then we should try and go ahead.
Definitely. Well, we've got Norman Williamson here. Norman, where were you at the time of all this?
I was in the weigh room, and we actually was just about to put on my helmet and thought it was a bit of a joke, and I'm sure Richard was a bit the same.
Yeah.
We didn't think it was serious, but
No,
obviously,
well, it seems to be pretty serious.
Yes, it's very worrying for the horses and everything. Horses tacked up, and I've just spoke to Mr. Bailey now. He's taking the saddle off. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Could you imagine it actually taking place now?
It's difficult, but if the light stays, well, and why not? But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, okay. Chris, what's your view?
Well, it's disgraceful, isn't it? It's so disappointing for so many people. All the time and effort that's gone into today. It's the biggest race in the world. It's very upsetting for everybody.
Right, okay. Julian Wilson's round the back here. Julian, just come in here for 1 second. What's your view of what's happening at the moment? I mean, do you think that this is the end of the race as far as
we're concerned today?
Des, it's an awful thing to say, but it has happened before. It happened with the Irish Derby 2 or 3 years ago, with the year that Sir Harry Lewis won. That race went ahead, and we can only hope that this race will go ahead.
Was a bomb alert on that occasion?
There was a bomb alert in the grandstand at the Curragh on Irish Derby Day.
Really? And how long was it before they got that race underway?
I think the race was about half an hour, three-quarters of an hour late in the end. They were very efficient.
Well, off time would be in about 4 minutes' time normally, so perhaps, we never know, perhaps we might have the Grand National hopefully in maybe an hour from now or something like that, would you?
Well, the first thing obviously will be to get everyone back in the positions they were before. The horses have got to be saddled, and they've got to, of course, be brought back to the parade ring and walk around, loosened up. Then you've got the parade and horses to post and so on. So the whole procedure from the go-ahead is going to take, I would think, three-quarters of an hour. And of course, we're a little way from the go-ahead yet. Pray God that we get the go-ahead.
Okay. Thank you for the moment. Richard and Skew, let's join them for a moment or so.
Well, yes, we found a hidey hole, and it is really sad that this situation has arisen whereby we have to seek refuge like this. The whole thing has just fallen apart.
I said before, I felt very sorry for the horses walking by them. I was sort of John O'Shea, was to go ballistic, you know, one of the favourites for the National, really getting upset, lots of crowds of people around them. It's very dangerous for them, horses lashing out and nearly getting kicked. It's putting these horses' lives in serious danger. It's very, very sad.
Yes, and just thinking of the contingency plans, I think that if it's cleared in daylight, it would be very doubtful the race could be run today, because the evacuation has seen no end of people clambering over the fences, and I'm afraid that they will not be in jumpable situation at this moment. But certainly we just are in the dark at the moment. So, Skew, I mean, you've lost your wife, couldn't find her, of course.
Well, I think that's very, again, it's very upsetting for a lot of people that split up from their families, etc. They don't know where anybody is. It's total chaos.
Yeah. Well, the chaos is out there, of course, everybody being sent in all directions from the racecourse, just a total evacuation. What a desolate sight this is. This is where the winner should be walking in. Of course, the Grand National winner of 1997 should now be walking in that direction. But the fences, as I say, have been trampled on by people who were trying to evacuate. It's no casting aspersions there. I mean, when you're told to evacuate, you go. But look, I don't know. I suppose they're enjoying themselves.
Well, I think it's rather sad. Just talking to Norman Williamson earlier, he said, you know, the part of it is some of the crowd aren't taking it too seriously. But obviously, you know, this is a very serious thing. This isn't just a stupid hoax. We wouldn't all be sat here now. And it, as I say, it's sad to see, you know, further. I mean, it's just vandalism, really. I know it's not meaning any nastiness, but as you say, if they do try and rerun the race, they're going to have to rebuild that fence.
I think we're in a no-win situation now. I can't see how it can be saved today, but then we're not in a position to, in actual fact, come to any sort of decision from there.
Hello! Hello, Mum!
Well, if you're just tuning in for the Grand National and you're wondering what on earth's going on, we've had a security alert here at Aintree, and as you see, the people have been moved from all the enclosures and the stands and out onto the course, and I'm afraid you saw one or two scenes there of people messing about with the fences, so it looks as though we may not have this great occasion here today. The race should have been off in 2 minutes from now. Toby Balding's here. You didn't actually have a runner in the race this year, but you had horses that were going to run later, didn't you?
Yes, I've got 3 that are due to run after the National. Obviously, we're all extremely disturbed by this, and we appreciate the problems that both the executive and the police must be having. But obviously, the trainers and those involved with the horses' worries are actually the horses, and they're the most vulnerable because they're not as easy to move as the crowds are. Obviously, the security in the yards, we hope, is foolproof. It's something we're very careful over, and I think we probably think we're all right down here, but yes. It's obviously a worrying time for everyone.
Absolutely. Well, people, I keep hearing the word they're disgusted with what's going on around me. Everybody seems to be that, and you can understand that absolutely. Now, Jenny Pitman's here again. We were come over here, Jenny. We were talking, excuse me, Toby, let Jenny in there for a second. We were talking in joyous terms, and we were having some fun and messing about earlier on and looking forward to the great race, and now it's all gloom and despondency, I'm afraid.
I'm afraid these people are very sick. If you could have just seen the scenes down the stable yard where we've had to leave our horses.
Yeah.
You know, they just said, you've got to leave your horses, get out of here.
Right. So
and I just find it, anybody that could be involved in such a disgusting act is just unbelievable. Don't tell me these people love horses. Don't tell me these people love animals. Don't tell me these people are in any way human, because they're not. But we won't give in to them. But to be shifted out there and leave your horses at the mercy of these lunatics.
On a practical sort of level, could you see this race taking place now?
Do you know what I think they should do? I think they should tell the jockeys to wait and resaddle the horses, and I think they should get the horses out on the track and let them run. We cannot and cannot be held to ransom and give in to these people.
It is the practicality of the situation.
We've got the lunatic element here, and we cannot give in to them.
Thank you, Jenny. I'm sorry that you've got so emotional about it, but I understand it. Charlie Barnett's here, clerk of the course. Now, this is, I mean, we had that dreadful day in 1993, but it's insignificant compared to today.
Yeah, Des, this is tragic. Unfortunately, we're going to have to evacuate the whole course. Everybody will have to leave, including you, the BBC, now, to go out onto the highway. There have been 2 coded bomb warnings received by the police, and there is no possibility of taking any chances. Consequently, we're going to abandon racing for today and make a further announcement later. So I just ask everybody here, including you from the BBC, to leave the course and get out onto the public highway immediately.
Thank you, Charlie. We will do that almost immediately. Just to say at home, I'm afraid to say the Grand National for 1997 has been ruined, has been spoiled. You heard Charlie Barnett, the clerk of the course. The race will now not take place. An announcement will be made in due course. Will not take place today, he reminds me. It may take place on another day, on Monday. Who knows? We'll sort that out in due course. But it's a rather sad day, I'm afraid, here, and we'll leave you just for the moment.
Please move away from the stand.
Scenes at the moment out on the course.
Please, can you all leave?
And everybody is being encouraged to leave the course, to abandon the course. The race meeting is abandoned. 2 coded bomb warnings have happened here today. The police are taking that situation very seriously indeed. We're about to do precisely the same. I'm sorry if...
Called a cartoon.